RJ is here. Okay, okay. University, okay, fine. University, Maryland, fine. Okay, University and Maryland.
They're moving.
So if you guys move it to University and Maryland, we're going to send an email out.
Okay, great.
What do they want us to do?
University of Maryland.
Because they're over there.
I say we just interview.
Alright, folks, University in Maryland, please.
Just let me know.
What do they want us to do?
Can you call Sheree with your phone?
I don't have a number.
I'll give it to you. Oh, she's texting me. No, I think she already has a crew in there, so Judy just said stand by.
Is the
She said
sheriff
stay
moving?
here, so we'll.
Yes, University in Maryland, like I told you guys.
Okay, so we'll stay and do interviews here.
On behalf of the entire first responder community, though, of course, our hearts go out to any of the families that are affected by this. Our update right now is that we do have a reunification center that is opened up at the convention center. That's at the North Hall. It will take time to transport students over to that area, but if you can't get a hold of your loved ones right now, your kids or somebody that you're concerned with, then that would be the place to go and to try to go ahead and do that reunification. We will have people there to assist you. We also have a phone number. It is being staffed. It's 702-455-AIDE. And there'll be a website opened up, and it's facofsouthernnevada.com. Okay, and so that is our current information that we have for victim services, and that will change also as or be updated as necessary. But we will have those resources there. Understand when you call that number or you check the website, the information right now will still be limited, and there won't be any specific information as far as individuals that have been injured or deceased.
Sheriff, what's happening on the campus now? I see people leaving.
So as you can imagine, the campus is a very large area to cover. Much like we had it in the aftermath of 1 October, there's a lot of additional calls coming in that students hunkered down, they're afraid, they're scared. Our officers are going unit by unit, building by building with the university police and the rest of the police officers, firefighters, EMS, and making sure that we don't have any additional victims and or subjects. So we'll be back with you in the very near future to provide an update. Thank you.
Any info on the suspect?
Sheriff, I have an update as well. I'm sorry, on that website. That's going to be facofsouthernnevada.org. I believe I said .com. That is .org.
Thank you, sir. All right, so we just got the latest information on the situation here at UNLV from Sheriff McMahill. We are going to step away, but Latoya, Dana, what I can tell you, the biggest news is that the suspect is deceased. There are no other threats. There are multiple victims that was sent to the hospital. McMahill cannot tell us the number of victims. There is also a reunification center at the convention center, and Sheriff McMahill says that they will provide us with another update as soon as we get that. We'll be sure to bring those to you on air, online. But Latoya, Dana, that's the very latest. We'll send it back to you.
Andrew, thank you for all that you do. We also learned that they have a number that they want folks to call as well. That is 702-455-AIDE. Again, that's 702-455-AIDE. And of course, as a reunification is starting to happen, a lot of sighs of relief here, but we also know that multiple people have been injured, and in fact, some of them may in fact be deceased. And so certainly a sobering, heartbreaking day. Hearts are heavy in our community as we continue to learn more about this at this hour. But the good news here is they're telling us there's no further threat. But out of an abundance of caution, they have decided to shut down all statewide campuses just in case. But again, no further threat at this time. Let's go ahead and check in with our Kelly Curran. She is in Sky 3. Kelly, what can you tell us?
All right, so actually we're checking out what's going on right now on I-15, and as you guys have been talking about, I-15 northbound is closed from Blue Diamond up through about Charleston. So I want to take a look at what we're seeing here. So unfortunately, there's a lot of cars here who got trapped in the closure, and they're not letting them move. I don't know if these cars, I'm assuming they've been sitting here since about 12:30, so they've been sitting there a while. Hopefully they're going to let them get off at Tropicana here soon, because these cars, like I said, they got nowhere to go. Behind this, you can see there's nobody, and that is because it's closed back toward Blue Diamond. Now, the southbound side is open, but traffic is very, very light. I'm assuming that most of the community is probably at home watching the news right now and grieving what's happened in our community. So it's probably the reason why the traffic is so light, because by this time we should see heavy traffic on 15, at least on the southbound side. Again, we're going to keep an eye on these people on the northbound side of I-15 and hope that they can get out of there quickly. We also have reports of Tropicana being closed. Oh, yeah, sure looks like it. Let me get over here. Yep, that looks like Tropicana's closed here at the north end of the airport. Also closures, Maryland Parkway, University Center, we've got closures, and Charleston at Shadow Lane, so right in front of UMC. We also have a closure there. So again, this is something we're going to continue to monitor here. Hopefully we can get these people off the 15 that are stuck. But if you're getting ready to head out the door anytime soon, I-15 is not the place to be, especially on the northbound side. Like I said, southbound is still open, at least for now.
All right, Kelly, thank you for the bird's eye view from the only news helicopter in the entire state of Nevada. That's Sky 3. We are getting an update from UMC. Scott Krebs there saying that they have not received any patients from this shooting at UMC. They're the only level 1 trauma center here in Southern Nevada. Right now, they're taking all of the injured, we believe, to Sunrise Hospital, which is the closest hospital to the UNLV campus. And we're expecting another update from Metro Police. We just received one from the Sheriff, Karen McMahill, moments ago. Next update from police will be at 5 p.m. But we still have a lot of questions, including how many people are injured and what their injuries are.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, we do know that some of those injured are at Sunrise. At least that's what we believe right now from the police presence there. We do have Kristen Drummond on scene. Kristen, any updates?
At this point, no new updates. I have reached out to a spokesperson from Sunrise Hospital to ask how many people are injured, what are their conditions at this time, but no response. But what we do know is that Metro Police have blocked the entrances into the emergency area here at Sunrise Hospital. What we're noticing, any cars that are pulling up, it seems that they don't have credentials showing that they work at the hospital, they are being turned away. But you can also see anyone who is currently in the parking lot, they are able to leave at this point. As I mentioned earlier, there are a number of first responders right now in the emergency room area, or I should say outside of the emergency room area, from Clark County Fire Department, Metro Police, as well as Henderson Fire Department at this time. But as you can see, both entrances over at Sunrise Hospital going into the emergency room area are blocked. And then you can see this one officer right here as an ambulance is about to pull in, approaching, asking, and then they are able to go on their way. But they are armed at this moment in time as they continue to monitor the traffic and people going in and out of the hospital. Of course, we will continue to give you the latest updates once we learn who is at this hospital right now, how many people are injured, because of course that is the big question at this time. Dana and LaToya.
All right, our Kristen Drummond there for us at Sunrise Hospital as we work to learn more. Let's go back to our Denise Rosh. She's a longtime reporter here and also third generation or second generation UNLV student. Her daughter went there as well. Have you been able to talk to any of the folks who have been coming out of the buildings as they go unit by unit trying to clear the students?
Yeah, and the students tell us, seriously, this is the worst thing that they could have ever imagined happening on their campus. How could it not be? Just coming out with SWAT, escorting them out with guns. The students really not sure what's going on. I know we heard about a reunification center, but you can see right over here, a lot of people just don't know what to do at this point. They're still standing here. We heard one first responder coming around just talking to people, telling them that they would be bringing them water because a lot of the businesses, as you can imagine, right in this area, are locked. They don't want people going in there. They just want to know where everyone is, basically. So a lot of the students still just waiting for word out here on Maryland Parkway, although you can see Maryland Parkway, once again, is nothing but wall-to-wall emergency vehicles, as it will be, I'm certain, for quite some time. Again, students just waiting here along with us for the information, but they did tell us, you know, they were just going about their day. One person told me that they were about ready to present a project, an end of semester project, and now this is what the day has come to, and it's quite literally unbelievable.
Okay, Denise, thank you for that update. And at this point, the nation is watching what's playing out here in Southern Nevada. As the nation watches what's happening, can you explain, as someone who, as a graduate of this university and has close ties to the university, what this campus means to our community for those who may not realize?
You know, a lot of people think of it as a commuter campus. People don't live on campus. They don't care about this campus. And I can tell you that's just really not true. People that have a deep commitment to this school, people care about this school, and you know, yeah, it's been with my family my entire life. My mother graduated from UNLV. I did. My daughter did. I know this campus fairly well. I know exactly where Beam Hall is. I can tell you I was there when Beam Hall opened. That's how old I am. But to have this happen right here, where a lot of these students, and myself as well, you think of this as a safe space, right? A campus where people come to learn. And this is the last thing they expect to happen. And this school does mean a lot to a lot of people.
All right, Denise, thank you so much for letting us know more about what's happening there on campus now and its impact on everyone who lives here in Southern Nevada. Close ties for so many of us. Let's go ahead and check back in with our traffic authority. Kelly Kern, we're now hearing that I-15 southbound is closing.
Yeah, it looks like they're already starting to close some of these on-ramps. The on-ramp from Sahara onto 15 southbound is already shut down. We're trying to figure out exactly what's going on here. Now, obviously, there's still quite a few cars, not a lot, but still quite a few cars here that are on I-15 southbound. We're not sure what the closing point is and from where to where because we haven't gotten an alert yet. But we're still working to find out that information. Like I said, the ramps from Sahara onto 15, both north and southbound, those are all closed. Same thing here as we're taking a look at, let's see, where's Charleston? Let's see, right here. This is Charleston. Yeah, it doesn't look like you're able to get on here either. So, yeah, 15, not the place to be. Again, northbound is shut down from Blue Diamond up to Charleston. Actually, are they letting? Oh, yep, they're letting them on at Charleston. Yep, letting on at Charleston. Southbound, we don't know from where to where yet, and they don't have it completely shut down yet. As soon as I find that out, I will check back in with you guys.
Yeah, it's got to be an eerie scene, right? I don't believe that I mean, when the President of the United States comes to town, they will shut down Interstate 15. Any other time, that's the busiest stretch of freeway in our entire state, and we rarely get a scene like that where you don't see a car on it, and it doesn't matter the time of day. But this is in the heart of the day,
right?
And
where
normally
the shift change is happening,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, normally that is just packed with people. But Kelly's going to stay up in Sky 3 for us. But Interstate 15 is not the place to be. Anywhere from Charleston all the way down to Blue Diamond Highway. And I imagine that the side streets around Interstate 15 are jacked up as well. So traffic anywhere close to the resort corridor is not good. And they're trying to keep the freeway clear there for emergency vehicles. Right now, we believe that all of the injured, we don't know how many there are right now, or their conditions, have been taken to Sunrise Hospital. And we do have a reporter in place, Steve Wolford's at UMC. He says there's a heavy police presence there, but we've also heard from UMC they have not taken a patient to UMC yet.
Which is interesting because that's our level 1 trauma center. And so perhaps some good news.
Right.
We can only hope and keep our fingers crossed for that. And we mentioned earlier about how this community has been really hit hard with a number of things that have rocked us to our core. Of course, up until now, one of the biggest stories that we've been telling you about is about the 2 NHP troopers who were hit and killed by the hands of a suspected drunk driver. And tonight there was supposed to be a vigil that was going to take place from at 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. We're now learning that has been canceled in light of what's happening here at UNLV. So many people already mourning, our law enforcement community that's responded to this scene. So hearts are heavy. And a lot of people still trying to figure out what has happened here. The good news we can tell you from the sheriff, he says that there's no further threat here. So at least good news. But undoubtedly, perhaps hundreds, maybe even thousands of people here still trying to figure out what's happening with their loved one who sheltered in place on campus today.
I mean, most kids have phones these days, so I'm sure there's a lot of texting and phone conversations going on between students and staff and teachers and their loved ones out in our community as well. So just go ahead.
Well, and to that end, we heard from one student who said that they had presentations going on, and so they weren't allowed to have their phone at that hour. And so there is a reunification center. They're sending a lot of the students that they're taking off campus. Again, this is painstaking because it's a huge campus. They're going unit by unit, door by door, building by building, but they're sending those students to North Hall at the convention center. If you also want to call ahead, you can do so at 702-455-AID. That's AIDE. Again, that number is 702-455-AID, AIDE.
So a quick recap, as we know that people are just joining the live broadcast now from time to time, but shots rang out shortly before noon on the campus of UNLV at Beam Hall, which is very close to the Student Union. We've also seen damage to a window at the Student Union. It looked like it was hit by gunfire. We believe it was just one active shooter opening fire. Number of people have been hit by gunfire. We don't have a number on that. We don't have their conditions. We believe they've been taken to Sunrise for treatment. And if the treatment goes to a certain level, those people may be transported over to UMC. We do have a reporter on the scene there as well. But they believe that the active shooter was shot by police himself. That person is down and deceased, and they say there's no further threat on the campus of UNLV.
And even still, out of an abundance of caution, they have decided to shut down all statewide campuses in light of what's happened here at UNLV.
These are college campuses,
College
right?
campuses have been shut down, and they're still working to find out more about that suspect. They haven't released who this person was, a possible motive just yet. But of course, as this investigation ticks on, those are the things they're going to be trying to learn here. But right now, a lot of people just trying to make sure that their loved ones are okay as they learn the unfortunate news that we have multiple injuries involved. And right now, the only deceased that we know of is the suspect in question. At one point, they thought possibly others could be involved here, but now they're telling us no further threat involved in this situation.
We know that we have a number of reporters on the scene right now. Brett Forrest was a reporter who was actually on campus on a different story, a different event, and he was one of the people who was locked into one of those classrooms. And he told us a short time ago that they locked the doors. I don't remember how many people there was. Seemed like there was a dozen, maybe 2 dozen inside the classroom. Turned off the lights inside the classroom to make it look like no one was inside, and they were staying away from the windows. But you could hear it from Brett's voice. You know, it was an unsettling situation at a minimum for him when he was inside that classroom, because you talk about active shooters, we report about active shooters. Well, he ended up becoming caught up in all of this earlier today.
Right, and you know, Brett is a seasoned reporter, and for those who don't know, he's 6'5", he's a big guy, and like you said, you heard the panic even in his voice as he was contemplating what could be going on in and around him. So as we come back on camera here in studio, of course, we're continuing to get reports in. We're talking by the minute of people who are eyewitnesses on the scene, people who were sheltered in place. We saw a mom who talked to us at one point, to our Andrew Nomura, who was talking about she was on the other side of Southern Nevada, and she decided to race to the scene, as any mother would, to try to figure out what was going on with her daughter. And her daughter, as you mentioned, all the kids have cell phones now. She was texting her that they were sheltering in place. Some people who were sheltered in place didn't know, even though we were getting reports that a lot of people were able to get off campus. They didn't know because, again, this is a painstaking investigation. They have to go unit by unit, door by door, to let people know that they have the all clear.
Okay, so Kelly Kern's up in Sky 3, and she's been showing us Interstate 15. It is pretty much shut down in both directions. We see a couple of cars there in Interstate 15. But Kelly, do you have further edification? I know they shut down northbound lanes from Blue Diamond all the way up to Charleston. It looks like there's still a little bit of traffic in the southbound lanes.
Yeah, so we actually just flew a little bit further north to try to check out what exactly is going on. And I-15 southbound is open, but they're not letting anyone on. From 95, Charleston, Sahara, Flamingo, all of those on-ramps are closed, but they're not forcing everyone off. So it's a little bit confusing, something I've never seen before. Like I said, a lot of the Flamingo's on-ramps are still open. That's interesting. But again, yeah, a lot of these ramps are still closed. So Sahara, you cannot get on the 15 north or southbound. Same thing that Charleston, 95 from north or southbound 95. If you're heading into the Spaghetti Bowl, you cannot get onto 15 southbound there either. We're still, like I said, trying to find out exactly what's going on with the southbound side of 15 and with these poor cars that have been stuck here now since about 12:30 when they shut down I-15 northbound. It would be great if they could let them off at Tropicana, but maybe they are? Oh, nope, just the fire truck left. But there's about a mile of cars that have been stuck here for about an hour, and they're about Russell to 215 Sunset area. Behind that, it is empty, and that's where they've got I-15 northbound closed at Blue Diamond, guys.
Yeah, it's just a nightmare on Interstate 15, so you definitely want to avoid that at all costs. You can see people have been... Oh, Tropicana's open?
Sorry.
Okay, I think Kelly was saying that Tropicana maybe was open, but you can see there's a line of cars northbound on Interstate 15, and she says that goes all the way back down about a mile or two there. So those people are stuck there on Interstate 15, can't get off. They're trying to keep the freeway open for emergency vehicles.
Yeah, and speaking of stuck, a lot of students and other people on the UNLV campus stuck as well. One of them at one point was Brett Forrest, one of our reporters. Brett, are you still on lockdown or have you been able to leave?
We are still sheltering in place, and I know we tuned into the presser as we could here too. We heard that the threat's clear, but UNLV is sending continual updates. They want us to continue sheltering in place because we believe they're going building by building, evacuating them, perhaps looking for potential victims or anything else. So we are still in here. We've begun letting students step outside where we were sheltered to pick up some of their personal belongings. We had to leave behind because we rushed into this room so quickly. So right now we're letting groups of 4 students at a time go grab their personal belongings, and we're going back into the room we've been sheltering in since about 11:45 this morning. But we do feel safe. But, I peek out the windows. I kind of see Metro Police on the street, but they don't know who we are. So we're not willing to, all walk out en masse and possibly trigger some kind of response from police because, they wouldn't know we're coming out. So we're just waiting. We're sheltering until we get the all clear from either UNLV or law enforcement coming by our building.
Yeah, Brett, that is very smart of you guys to wait until you are in fact clear. As we have been telling you, and you were able to listen into the news conference there, the sheriff says there's no further threat. Knowing that from them at this point, even though you guys have not been given the all clear where you are, was there a collective sigh of relief as you all were learning this information? Can you kind of tell us what you all were hearing and feeling as that information started to come out?
Yeah, I have to say I'm with several dozen students and then some staff and faculty here, and the students remain collected and calm as far as I could tell throughout this whole duration, even though, they are concerned. They've been texting, reaching out to friends, trying to make sure they're safe. But, I maybe that just speaks to how normal this is in everyday life now, just because they weren't too concerned initially. But we are, everyone does seem like we know we're safe, and we're just kind of waiting it out now at this point. But, it's been as calm as can be in here.
Yeah, and it makes sense that they don't want people rushing outside of those buildings right now, although they say there is no active shooter currently, that they believe there was only one gunman on campus who was killed by police there. They don't want people rushing out of their buildings right now just out of an abundance of caution. So it makes sense that they want you to shelter in place until they can get you out of those buildings in an orderly fashion, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that is our assumption. And so like you guys and people at home, we're just kind of trying to get our updates through the UNLV text messages, their tweets. And then, we aren't sure how long it'll take, but we are on one of the edges of campus, so we're prepared. We're thinking we may be kind of stuck inside here, sheltering in place still for another at least hour or so until law enforcement or whoever is going building to building gets to us.
All right, Brett, thank you so much. And we're so glad that you're okay, and the dozens of students who are with you as well, that all of you are okay. We'll continue to check in with you. In the meantime, we do have confirmation from Metro. We've been saying multiple people injured since this all played out. And now we know that the number that they're giving us right now that have been confirmed, at least 3. So at least 3
and you're getting
victims
that from
right
Metro?
now. Our newsroom just put that information out to us as he was talking to us, telling us that Metro is claiming now 3 victims at least. That number could change.
But no condition yet, right, on there?
No conditions just yet, but of course, we do know that we have reporters on scene there at Sunrise, hopefully trying to find that information out, as well as a reporter who's there at the media staging area. We're learning now that Metro is saying they possibly won't update us on the situation until 5 o'clock. But we'll continue to listen to the folks on the scene there that are telling our reporters what they saw, what they heard, and what they felt when this all started to break out around 11:45, when a shooter rained terror there at the university there on the campus, and at least 2 buildings now. We know it was at a business building, a business school building, and also the student union. And we showed you those pictures earlier of that shattered glass. Right. Another scary moment that we saw play out in real time too were those shooters, those sharpshooters who were on the building there at UNLV looking out for any possible danger. Yeah, we have video of that as well. And I'm just getting video too. I'm looking at my social media feed, as many people I'm sure are watching their social media feeds. This from our reporter Denise Rosh, the UNLV graduate. She's on campus right now, and she just posted this to X about 40 minutes ago, showing some UNLV students coming off campus, and some of them had their hands raised in the air, as I'm sure they were being told to do
by Metro police officers just to make sure that they didn't have any weapons in hand. Again, we don't believe there's an active shooter. They said that there wasn't, that everything is secure on campus right now, but this posted by Denise Roche just about 40 minutes ago to X.
And we know now at least 3 victims involved. Again, we don't know their conditions right now. Perhaps some good news in this, no further threat, and that also we're hearing from UNMC, which is our level 1 trauma center, is that they have not received any patients at this time. We do believe that the patients that are involved in this will be heading to Sunrise if they're not there already. But again, you're looking at Sky 3 just kind of trying to figure out their vantage point. We showed you I-15 shut down, which again, pretty much unheard of unless the president is in town. So that speaks to the severity of the situation.
Yeah, northbound lanes have been shut down, and at last check, it was all the way from Blue Diamond up to Charleston, and you can see the queue of people right there that were caught up in all of this. That's very close to Tropicana. And Kelly was telling us that this line of cars goes back a mile or 2, and they're stuck there until they can be released from that situation. They also shut down the southbound lanes, too. We're not sure from where to where, but this is the video that Denise Roche posted just a short time ago of some of those students coming off of campus. And I'm sure when they're released, despite the fact that they do have some sort of a reunification center at the convention center, I'm sure most of these students will be finding their own ways home, and they will also be using their phones to contact family members to let them know that they are okay.
But if perhaps you are still wondering what is going on with your loved one, you can call 702-455-AID-AIDE. That's 702-455-AIDE. And as we mentioned a short time ago, we do have a reporter there at Sunrise Hospital. Kristen Drummond, you're there on the scene with heavy police presence that has been there since you got there. Go ahead and tell us the latest.
Well, we still have a heavy police presence outside of Sunrise Hospital, and I just received a statement from Sunrise Hospital. We're being told that they have received a patient. So, 1 patient. I will read you the full statement. It says Sunrise Hospital Trauma Center has received a patient from the UNLV campus active shooter incident. Our hearts go out to the UNLV community, their families, and everyone impacted by this tragedy. That is another ambulance that is going by Sunrise at this moment in time. Does not appear that that ambulance is turning into the hospital, but as far as we know, only a patient has come to Sunrise Hospital. Who that patient is, we do not know. We don't know if that is the suspect shooter or it's potentially one of the people who were hurt during the active shooter case earlier or this afternoon. But of course, we will be continuing to stay outside of Sunrise with the latest once we get that information. Dana and Latoya?
I'm trying to get an idea. Do you see police officers on scene? Do you see police vehicles on scene? Is there a police presence at Sunrise Hospital?
There is definitely a police presence at Sunrise Hospital, but because of how Sunrise Hospital is laid out, you are unable to see where it's located. But if I take a step out of the way, you can see that there is a Metro patrol car right at that entrance. And if you turn in to Sunrise Hospital there, you will then go down basically the road, and then you have to make another right, and then the emergency room is on the back side of that building, and that is where we've been seeing multiple agencies from Clark County Fire Department, Metro, even Henderson Fire Department responding to the hospital. And as I've mentioned before, we have seen Metro Police making sure people are credentialed now before they are entering the hospital. As you can also tell, they are armed at this point in time and making sure no one is going into that area unless they are allowed to go in. But as we have been told by Sunrise Hospital, they currently only have a patient. So where the others in this case are possibly at the moment, we do not know, but at least 1 person is here at this time, Dana and Latoya. But yes, it is a very active area on the backside of that hospital. We were able to drive in very quickly when we responded to Sunrise Hospital as soon as we heard about the active shooter on UNLV's campus. We were actually over at the Juvenile Justice Court covering another story from this morning, heard about the shooting, came immediately over here, and then went to that backside of the emergency room. When an officer noticed that we had pulled out our phones, immediately told us stop filming. So we did, and we came back out here. But yes, it is still a very active area.
All right, Kristen Drummond for us reporting live there at Sunrise Hospital, where at least one patient is at this hour. Let's go ahead and check in now with Dave Shepard. He's a retired FBI agent who has extensive history in school shootings. In fact, he wrote a book on it. What can you tell us about these type of investigations when you have incidents like this break out, especially on what is considered an urban campus with tens of thousands of students involved?
Well, there's a lot of different types of shootings for school shooting. You do have an urban campus. There's a lot of urban campuses in the United States that's been, unfortunately, in shootings. You have a lot of students. That's the biggest thing. You have a lot of buildings. You have a lot of response from vulnerable agencies. Not only one department, not at the university people, but also federal, state, local, highway patrol. They're all involved in these type of shootings. They're all trained together.
Dave, give us an idea, and I know that we can't get into the mind of every mass shooter in America right now. We have no motive for this one. We don't have an identity on the shooter who is currently deceased. He was shot dead by police officers a short time ago, but try to give us an idea of what's in the mind of these mass shooters as they go onto a college campus and open fire on innocents.
Well, one of the things you have, we always want to know why a person does something. Motive, motive, motive. And I have identified 9 different type motives, but there's no way to determine what that person actually is thinking about as his motive. Even the 1 October shooting, we couldn't ever figure out why he did the shooting here. Even with some of the school shootings, you may not know. You don't know if he's a student here before. You don't know if he got flunked out of the school. You don't know if he used to work there. Why did he pick this campus and not another place? It's hard to tell.
Right.
Each one is completely different.
And each one is terrifying. And you just mentioned how usually there's always all hands on deck here. So lots of moving parts. So we know that there's the situation that we can see where everyone responds to the campus. Once they take down that shooter, I would imagine the next thing is to try to figure out who this person was, and as you mentioned, what they could have been up to. Can you tell us, as they start to clear building from building, what is going on right now in terms of investigation? Are they talking to students to figure out what they see, what they saw, and perhaps what they heard?
Well, you're also looking to see if anybody's injured throughout there. Because anytime you use an AR-15 or a .223 round, that bullet actually goes 1.25 miles. So we have to follow where the bullets went. You see if somebody's injured that way. But also you have multiple buildings. When you lock down a campus, how many buildings are there? 40, 50? You have to clear each one. We don't want people running out unless they have their hands up. We don't want people running out until we're ready for those people, because that you don't know if it's an attack going by another person, a second shooter, a third shooter. And what happens also is there's so much information coming out, it's hard to tell what is true. And that's what we have to really, really be careful about, is trying to respond to information that has not been confirmed, at least established by more than one person. So right now they're clearing the buildings. They're going in to make sure they're not injured, make sure their people are okay, and pointing in a certain direction to get out. You don't want to keep throwing people into a certain area that's not cleared yet. Keep them going out to a different area.
Dave, this might be beyond your expertise, but give us an idea what this does to the victims of these shootings, or even a student or a staff member, faculty member that wasn't even within 1 mile of the shooting. What does this do to their psyche going forward?
Well, we had that started with Columbine, because when you have people in with Columbine, they were in the room for how long? Because when you say shelter in place, how long does that actually mean? There is no time. Sometimes you'll be in there 2 hours, 3 hours. You're thinking through the whole time. But now it's a lot different than it was in the earlier shootings, because you have your cell phones and you're dealing with people on the outside. You're seeing videos, you know you're safer than they are from other ones. Beginning, it was a lot worse because you didn't know what was going on. Now you can get to see a little flavor of what's happening. But go back to another thing. You have people that may be from that school, either a teacher or a worker or whatever, it could have been on the 1 October shooting. Now we have flashbacks coming back in, PTSD in relationship to a shooting here in town. And it's another shooting here.
And to that point, as you mentioned, I mean, this just seems like it affects the psyche of folks who have never even encountered a mass shooting, just because they're seeing it play out on their screens. It seems like, if not daily, weekly, or monthly, we're hearing of a mass shooting, and that a lot of people have angst because it seems that no place is safe. And from a law enforcement standpoint, what can we all do to try to help prevent situations like these?
Well, one of the things you always look at is situational awareness. Make sure you know your surroundings. Like going out with my family, I'm going out, I'm looking for exits, I'm doing different things. That maybe we did not do 20 years ago, 30 years ago. We're looking at how to get out of a certain situation. Should I even go into that situation? So you're planning, you're thinking. But we always have the run, hide, fight. But you have to think of one other part of that. Let's look at run. If we go to any particular area, you're going to look at the same thing you would as a fire. What's my distance to that fire? What's my distance to the shooter? Am I 300 yards away or 20 feet away? That makes a big difference. I don't see it. That makes a big difference. What's my location? I'm in a different building. I'm like 15 buildings away. So am I better out there? Sure you are, but you don't know exactly where the shooter's going to be. So that's why you don't always run out. How much time do I have to react? Do I have 30 seconds, or do I have, like some of the people right now, some of the students, they're several buildings away. They're there for 2 hours maybe. And the last one, do I have the ability to move? Remember, at college campuses, we have handicapped people. Who's helping them? The blind people that goes to that school. My son goes to that school. He's blind. How do you help him? And that's what the law enforcement gets trained on. We have to how to help everybody on that campus.
So speaking of law enforcement, Dave Shefford, a retired FBI agent, joining us here on the phone. Dave, give us an idea of the first responders. While people are running away from the gunshots, we have heroes in our community that are running toward the gunshots. What have we learned since Columbine, which was the first mass shooting of memory that we can remember from the 1990s in the Denver area? What have we learned from that shooting? How do first responders respond to an active shooter situation on a campus like UNLV?
Now it is different. It is quite a bit different. Before the first responders, the law enforcement went in, the paramedics stayed behind, fire department stayed behind. Now they get into the warm zones. They get in because they have ballistic helmets. They have ballistic vests. They can go in to help people. We've had too many people that have died from losing too much blood because they didn't get there fast enough. They've seen that. They work on it. They try to get there faster. So that's where they are now. That's the biggest change you have now. First responders go in, both the fire department and the law enforcement, to try to end the situation and help the people faster than we ever had before.
So in a lot of ways, it sounds like we've been able to learn a lot about these mass shootings since they first started in the late 90s from our memory. But at the same time, we're dealing with them more and more, and it seems like it's becoming more commonplace. You were just talking earlier about how some people are told to run and why that's helpful in some cases and not in others. And then you mentioned that your own son goes to UNLV and that he is blind. I would imagine someone like him would probably do better hiding. Can you go ahead and further break down, when we talk about run, hide, and fight, those different situations where it's best to hide? What is the best way to go about doing that? And then when should you know that, okay, the danger is here and it's time to do everything I can to try to survive it?
Well, you look at the run, hide, fight. There's different type of programs you look at that. But it goes back into distance, location, ability, and time. I'm not going to, I use a fire a lot in my classes. I look to say, if you see the fire, you could see it. What if you see the shooter? What if you don't see the shooter? But at least you have a distance you're trying to associate it with. And that's how you try to play it. Not everybody has the ability to do it. Some people, yes, it's run, hide, fight, but still at the same time, it's fight or flight and freeze. And some people just freeze. I've had pictures of the shooting they had in Fort Lauderdale at the airport at the baggage claim. The shooter went around people that froze. He did not shoot senior citizens, several of them were there. He went after other people, but they did not run. There's a lot of people that don't understand what they're in. Because remember, there's like a lot of different people have mental abilities and abilities to establish what's going on in front of them. And that's what happens with some of the people. They don't associate what they're supposed to do.
All right, David Shepard there for us, a retired FBI agent. We thank you. And he mentioned that he has a student at UNLV too, which also speaks to when we talk about the connection that so many of us feel with that campus. I mean, this is something that is hitting a lot of people hard right now. What we know right now, the suspect is dead. There are 3 victims. We do not know their conditions at this hour. We still don't know the motive. We don't know anything about that suspect, but you can bet that law enforcement are doing everything that they can right now to try to piece together everything that led up to this and figure out why someone would want to do this.
Going through it again, aren't we? We was 6 years ago, October 1st, 2017, Route 91 Harvest Festival, and that site is about 2.5 miles from UNLV. I mean, it's that close to each other, and 60 dead from that one. We're hoping that no one will be deceased from this one, but 3 people shot in unknown condition, and we believe at least one of those at Sunrise, maybe all 3 at Sunrise Hospital.
Yeah, not confirmed just yet, but as you mentioned, what happened here in 2017, a lot of people who may have not been there directly don't realize that that wound is still very much open for a lot of people here. In fact, someone that I know that was there and injured, their mother still dealing with the implications of being shot in the chest that fateful day. And so this is not something that is in the wee back of our minds here. This is something that a lot of people are living with, and every time something happens, not only here at home, but if we see it play out in neighboring states or beyond, we feel it. And we know that we're still very much trying to heal. We're still very much trying to make sense of the senseless here. And once again, we find ourselves faced with that danger that all of us hope will never happen, but sadly, it's happening too often.
Kelly Curran is talking about the impacts of this shooting on the campus of UNLV, which started around 11:45 this morning, and it's having traffic impacts on Interstate 15 and surrounding side streets as well. We know the northbound lanes of Interstate 15 were shut down from Blue Diamond all the way up to Charleston. Southbound lanes have been shut down as well. And Kelly, you're showing us a line of cars. I believe those are the northbound lanes very close to Tropicana, of people that got caught up in this, and they simply can't get off the freeway. It's a giant parking lot.
All right, so here's what happened. You remember those cars that were trapped there on the northbound side, right around Russell? They let them go. So they're out of here now. But unfortunately, I-15 is still closed back here at Blue Diamond, just on the northbound side. Southbound traffic is still moving, as you can see. There's still cars on there, not a lot of cars, but there still are cars. Now, they're letting them access I-15 southbound at Tropicana and Flamingo, but from Sahara and from Charleston, you are not able to get onto 15 southbound. Same thing at the 95. So if you're on the 95 north or southbound, no access to 15 southbound. It's very bizarre. We tried to find out exactly what's going on with the southbound side of 15, but nobody's talking to us. They're a little busy. We understand. But let's just avoid the 15 altogether. 15 northbound, though, is still completely closed. You can see right there at Blue Diamond, and it is closed all the way from there to Charleston. But at least those cars that were stuck over here by Russell have been released. Like, they just let them go, so they're not stuck. They were stuck for almost 2 hours.
Wow, all right, our Kelly Curran there following the traffic impact from all of this. Again, they're shutting down the 15 from Charleston to Blue Diamond because they're trying to make room for any first responders who need to get through the area. So obviously you can see the importance of that. As she was talking, just wanted to reiterate that they are going building by building, unit by unit, dozens of buildings that they have to go through there at this urban campus in Las Vegas. They are taking students to the convention center, and so if you have a student there, it's possible that they could be among the number that will be transported there so they can have a reunification with their loved ones. If you would like a call ahead of time, you can do so at 702-455-AIDE. That's 702-455-AIDE.
We also understand there's a number of side streets that are also blocked off right now. I'm getting this from Mick Akers from the RJ, and he's saying Charleston between Interstate 15 and Shadow Lane, right there at UMC, shut down to make sure that they can get emergency vehicles there. We believe that the injured, 3, have been transferred to Sunrise Hospital to get treatment, but if their treatment is such that they need an elevated level of treatment, they may be transferred from Sunrise to UNLV. That is a possibility. Maryland Parkway between Tropicana and Flamingo, that's also shut down. That's one of the streets right there on the eastern edge of the UNLV campus. And Tropicana closed at Las Vegas Boulevard, Koval Lane, Paradise Road at University Center Drive, Harmon Avenue at University Center, all shut down. Those are the streets right around the UNLV campus, so right now you want to avoid that area as well.
Right, and roads aren't the only things being shut down right now. All college campuses in the entire state shut down just as an abundance of caution in light of what happened here. And I would imagine students wouldn't be able to concentrate anyway, knowing what's happening at UNLV. As we mentioned, Sunrise is where we believe the victims are being taken at this time, and that is where we find Kristen Drummond. Kristen, any updates for us?
Well, Dana and Latoya, what we know from a spokesperson from Sunrise Hospital, that they have a patient. They did not tell us if that patient is potentially the shooter in this case or it's one of the people who were injured. But at this moment in time, Sunrise Hospital is reporting they've only received a patient. Now, we know Metro Police have told us there have been multiple injuries, at least 3 that we know of, according to Metro Police, but Sunrise Hospital is only saying one person is here. As for where some of the other people may go, it's unknown at this time, but as we know, UMC is reporting that they have not received anyone yet. But let me step out of the way where you can see what is happening. We still have Metro Police outside the entrances of Sunrise Hospital. Unlike other areas around the valley, Maryland Parkway here in between Desert Inn and Sahara is open to all traffic. Traffic is moving very freely over here, but Metro Police is still making sure no one is entering Sunrise Hospital, at least around that emergency room area, unless they are supposed to be there. They are asking for what it seems to be credentials before anyone enters. We have noticed that some are armed with heavy machinery or guns. At least you can see if we turn the camera over just a little bit, you can see one officer is carrying what appears to be a rifle. Now, you aren't able to see the number of police or first responders here, and that's because the emergency room is on the back side of this building. And we were able to go into that area right before Metro Police shut off the entrance, and we did see a number of first responders from various agencies around the Las Vegas Valley. But as you can see, the officer is talking, it appears to be with the driver right now, telling them the situation. If you can't come in, you got to keep going, keep moving along. But that has caused a little bit of a backup from time to time with cars. As you can see, there's now maybe 3 just on the side wanting to know if they can go in or not. If not, they're having to move away. But for right now, we are still waiting for another update from Sunrise, but at this point, only a patient, according to a spokesperson, that is here.
All right, Kristen Drummond there at Sunrise. We appreciate you for all that you've been able to do. Again, she confirmed that at least one patient is suspected to be there. We don't know anything about that person's condition, but of course, Kristen's working to try to learn as much as she possibly can right now. We do know that there are 3 victims involved, still working to try to figure out what type of injuries they sustained, keeping our fingers crossed that there are no deceased right now. But the good news that we can tell you is that they are saying there's no further threat, just one suspect so far. That person is down. And we've also learned that there are no patients right now that have been received at our level 1 trauma center, UMC. So that tells us that, at least from what we know right now, that the injuries involved do not rise to that level. At least that's what we're hoping that means for us today.
We've been scanning social media. You're seeing some of the videos into the newsroom today from students presumably walking off campus. And in some cases, initially, when they walked out of those buildings, they had their hands in the air just to show that they didn't have any weapons on them. We had an active shooter there at 11:45 on the campus of UNLV, and we heard of active shots fired at Beam Hall, also at the Student Union. We saw damage to one of the windows of the Student Union. Evidently a gunshot there, someone opening fire. That person is deceased. The active shooter was killed by other officers there on campus. And these are the videos coming from the UNLV campus showing people calmly walking off of campus. It sounds like they were able to get to this active shooter very quickly within minutes. And as a result, we do have 3 victims here, but it sounds like it could have been much, much worse.
And of course, we're hoping, as so many of you are, that that is not the case. But we all have someone that we know that either goes to UNLV, went to UNLV. In fact, even the retired FBI agent that we spoke to just moments ago tells us that his son goes to UNLV and is blind. And so he was talking about when we talk about that, run, hide, or fight scenario, that means different things for different people. Mm-hmm. And in some cases, they're not able to do that because they don't really know what's going on. And he talked about how some people freeze in those situations. And so certainly as this continues to go on and the investigation that is going to be massive continues, we're going to learn more about exactly what this threat entailed. Hopefully we will be able to learn what the motive was, but as Dave Shepard with the FBI, retired from the FBI, mentioned, we still don't know the motive from the October 1 shooting that plagued our community 6 years ago. And so a lot of heavy hearts and minds as people try to wrap their brain around the fact that this has yet happened again in our country, and this time amongst our students there at UNLV, a beloved campus for so many reasons for so many of us.
And you can see that the police response was swift and it was massive. It was all hands on deck to the campus of UNLV. They had initial reports of shots fired at 11:45, and they didn't know what they would arrive to. They didn't know how many shooters they would find on campus, and it turns out, according to the sheriff, Kevin McMahill, that it was just one shooter. But they didn't know what they would arrive to, so they swarmed the campus, and we just saw a police presence where they had some sharpshooters on top of the rooftops there, looking down, trying to get the high ground on campus today. And we also heard from Brett Forrest, our reporter, who was on a different story today, just happened to be on the campus of UNLV when all of this occurred. And he got an alert on his phone, as did the other dozens of students inside that classroom on campus, to shelter in place. So they locked the doors, they shut off the lights to make it look like nobody was in that classroom, and they stayed away from the windows. But you could see that people were shaken on campus, and that included our Brett Forrest. When we talked to him via the telephone a little bit earlier today, you could hear it in his voice that he was shaken by all this. Normally he's reporting on these stories, not only here, but around the country. Today he was part of this story.
He was, and you can see the video of those students coming out with their hands up, and that's because police, you know, they don't know who's who, and so that's why they have them do that. And Brett Forrest was waiting at last check to try to figure out if he would be one of those people who would in fact be able to leave the building where he is, where he's trapped at last check with dozens of other people. Let's go ahead and check back in with our Kristen Drummond. Kristen, who is at Sunrise Hospital. Kristen, what do you got for us?
Well, Dana and LaToya, as we've been saying, this shooting is affecting not only the UNLV community, but our entire valley, including those who have appointments here at Sunrise Hospital. This is Ron. We just ran into each other. And Ron, you said you were trying to go to the emergency room just moments ago. What happened?
I was told that the hospital's closed. Unless you're a nurse or a doctor or work at the hospital, you're not allowed in.
And why were you going to the hospital?
I had a doctor's appointment with my surgeon today, and I have an infection, and he said that I needed to be admitted and go to the ER.
So he told you to go to the emergency room?
Yes.
Did you tell police that your doctor told you to go to the emergency room?
I did, yes.
And what did they tell you?
They said it doesn't matter, that I need to leave.
Where are you going to go now? Did you notify your doctor?
Not yet. I'm going to call him as soon as I leave here.
Did they tell you or inform you about what is happening just 2 miles down the road at UNLV's campus and why this hospital right now, or at least the entrances into the emergency room, are blocked?
No, they didn't say anything. They're very quiet about everything. They just want you to leave.
They just want you to leave. I know you mentioned you have been here in the community since 2008, hearing that there was an active shooter situation on UNLV's campus. Metro Police telling us 3 people have been hurt. What are your thoughts about all of this?
It's sad what's going on in this world. People shooting each other. You know, I understand people have a right to their Second Amendment to have a weapon. But something needs to be done. As to what needs to be done, I just don't know.
Do you have a connection to UNLV?
I do not.
But this is very heartbreaking to you. And now, I guess you're going to reach out to your doctor and go home?
Correct. That's about all I can do.
All right. So like we were saying before, police making sure people are credentialed before they are going into Sunrise Hospital. Dana and LaToya.
All right, Kristen Drummond there for us at Sunrise. And of course, that man who was supposed to be at the hospital today, not able to get into his appointment. But speaking to what we all feel when something like this happens, like something needs to be done. A lot of people are tired of seeing our friends, our neighbors have to go through this. And of course, those questions will be hopefully brought up and answered as this investigation continues. But right now we're learning more information.
Yeah, that's the debate that rages on in America these days, isn't it? So our Steve Wolford, I know that you started the day at UMC where you saw a big police presence, but no ambulances associated with this. He now joins us by phone. You drove from UMC over to the Reunification Center at the Convention Center. How long did it take you to get there? I understand that there's a lot of traffic on the side streets right now as well.
Yeah, because they've been diverting traffic off of the 15. But I'm sure the scene at UMC was very similar to what Kristen was seeing at Sunrise, with the only exception is that UMC at the time was not taking any patients, which in and of itself is good news if they hadn't sent anyone to UMC trauma at this point. We are now at the Convention Center at the North Hall, which is where they have set up the Reunification Center. And I can tell you that we got here about a half hour ago. There was one Metro Police unit, one of those small compact county cars with the Clark County logo on the side, and an ambulance. The ambulance has since left. We were able to get into the convention hall where they were setting up, and as soon as we were spotted by some of the folks here at the convention center, we were enthusiastically asked to leave that convention hall out of respect to the privacy of the families who might be coming here to be reunified after what has been a very emotional day, and that we certainly completely understand. We've since gone outside where we were able to come across a couple of young men from UNLV, a couple of students. They were there at the time that the active shooter situation began to unfold. They told me that they had heard multiple gunshots and decided to not even try to find a ride over here to the convention center to be reunified with one of those young men's father. They decided to hoof it. They walked all the way from the UNLV campus here to the convention center, and they just were sitting on a bench outside waiting for that father to show up, and they took off. So that's kind of the situation that we're seeing here right now. Haven't really seen that many folks coming in looking like they're headed into the reunification hall, but we'll stick around here. We were able to talk to those young men and get their story. We'll have more on that coming up a little bit later. So I'll go ahead and send it back to you at this point and let you give us the latest on what's happening outside of the convention center.
Okay, Steve, thank you. We're also getting word from the University of Dayton. The UNLV men's basketball team was supposed to play in Dayton, Ohio tonight at 6 p.m. our time. That game has been canceled because of what happened on the campus of UNLV today. So the men's basketball team will not be in action. Yeah, and just to reiterate that all college campuses here in the state also shut down because of what happened here. That's just out of an abundance of caution and out of respect of what's playing out on UNLV's campus today. Let's go ahead once again and check in with our traffic authority, Kelly Curran. As we've mentioned, it took Steve them a while to get where they were going because a lot of streets have been shut down. A lot of people were diverted rather to those side streets, and of course you have an update for us for the traffic situation there on the 15.
Yes, so the good news is they have reopened some of these ramps. So southbound at Sahara, you can get on 15 southbound there, Charleston, Spring Mountain, Flamingo. All of the ramps to southbound 15 are open except from the 95 in the Spaghetti Bowl. I'm not sure why. We're also dealing with a little situation. So we're watching the northbound side, and looks like, oh, I think we've got it open. They are opening up northbound I-15 here as we speak. So we have been seeing them getting on at Flamingo and Spring Mountain. So they were starting to reopen I-15, and it looks like this is what's happening now. I-15 northbound starting to reopen here at Blue Diamond, so good news for us there. We're going to get some traffic flowing on 15 again. Now, that being said, there are still a lot of and I think we lost. Oh, nope, no, we got my signal back. Okay, good. All right. All right, so Tropicana that is still closed here over by Paradise. So we also got an alert that the airport connector was closed at the 215. We haven't been able to go over there to check that out yet, but that would definitely cause problems for anybody trying to get to the airport. I'm going to say you need to approach from the east if you do need to get to Harry Reid International Airport, and use Russell. So you're going to go by Terminal 3. That's going to be the safest way to go and not run into any major issues here. Again, Maryland Parkway, University Center, Tropicana, part of that is closed. We got an alert that part of Harmon was closed, and Charleston from 15 to Shadow Lane, that is also closed. But I-15 north and southbound is back open. There are just at least some ramp closures that are keeping traffic on the 15 very light right now, guys.
Our Kelly Curran in Sky 3 for us with that vantage point. And we're also getting from the airport, she mentioned a little bit about the traffic surrounding it. That's because, as she mentioned, the roads are closed around it because of the police activity. At this time, the 215 is also open, but there's heavy traffic there. If you are heading to the airport, you are urged to check in with your airline for your flight status before you head out. Again, that's the word that just came down about 2 minutes ago from the airport.
I'm taking that as an encouraging sign, though, that Interstate 15 traffic is flowing there again. They shut it down for emergency vehicles, but it leads me to believe that the injured, 3 of them, are where they need to be. They were trying to keep the roads open so they could transfer them from one hospital to another if need be, and that they could get emergency crews onto the scene if need be. But the fact that they have the freeway back open this afternoon is probably good news now that everybody is in place where they need to be, at least at this hour.
Right, but undoubtedly a lot of people still wanting to know exactly what happened here, why it happened, and what is going on with the 3 victims that we at least know about. And we still don't know if that number could increase at this hour, so we're not totally in the clear, but we are getting some promising news when we start to see traffic moving again, when we start to hear from police saying that they don't believe there's a further threat, because moments after this happened, you know, I can at least tell you, even here in the studio, our hearts skipped a beat a little bit when we heard about some of our own that were trapped there on the UNLV campus. And it just goes back to the fact that this threat of a school shooting, a mass shooting, always a possibility. Of course, we all hope for the best, but we know as we hear one after the other play out in community after community, and now here at home multiple times, that it certainly is a possibility that all of us could face one day.
No doubt. And we even heard from the retired FBI agent, Dave Shepard, who joined us earlier, saying that when he goes into restaurants now, he's looking for where the closest exit is. He thinks that way, and I know a lot of our neighbors and people watching think that way too, hoping that they'll never be caught up in a situation like this, but knowing that's always a possibility. And we saw it today on the campus of UNLV. But just a quick recap here. We had an active shooter on campus. We understand that shots were fired at Beam Hall, also at the Student Union. We've seen one of the windows damaged at the Student Union. Presumably a gunshot from this active shooter happened right around 11:45. 3 people were hit by gunfire. That number could go up, but that's what we're hearing now. 3 people hit by gunfire in unknown condition. At least one of them taken to Sunrise Hospital, about 2 miles away from campus. We don't believe that anybody was taken to the Level 1 Trauma Center at UMC. The shooter was killed, deceased, found and deceased. Whether he was shot by a police officer, we don't know. It's possible that that person took their own life as well. But here is brand new video into the newsroom. We're watching this together live on television as some of these students and staff were exiting some of these buildings with their hands above their heads, or at moments even on top of their heads.
Right, and of course that's what law enforcement instructs them to do, because at that point they don't know who's who. And so just to be on the safe side, they tell them to walk out with their hands up. This is inside one of the buildings there. We're not sure which one, but several of these videos are starting to play out. Even some people posting videos of their loved ones who were sheltered in place. Our Brett Forrest, a reporter that many of you know well, he was on campus sheltering in place there for a story about something else when this all played out. But thankfully, when you see this type of video, I mean, you can only imagine what's going through their heads, but they are safe, and they know at that point that they're being rescued from this situation, as they were trapped in their campus building, not knowing what was going on. But you can only imagine what is going through their minds as police start to search them. I mean, that's a position,
wow,
if you're a law-abiding citizen who has never been in trouble with the law, that has to be traumatic and dramatic for you to see officers, in some cases with guns drawn, and then patting you down as you walk out of your school building.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't know if we can get Brett Forrest back on the phone, but we were talking to him earlier today, and I'd love to talk to him again if possible. But Brett was locked in one of those rooms. He was on campus covering a different story when he got an alert on his phone, like almost all of these students did, to tell them to shelter in place. So he was inside a locked classroom with about 36 students there. They shut off the lights to make sure that it looked like no one was inside the classroom, locked the doors, stayed away from the windows, and everybody inside that room was shaken for sure. But I don't know if he's been let out yet. They were kind of going building by building, room by room, to make sure that these people could get out safely. And you're taking a look at some of the new video. I believe this is from Boyd Law School, is what I'm hearing from a former student on campus there. Boyd Law School is on the campus of UNLV, and these are some of presumably the law students being led out of that building to make sure that they didn't have any weapons on them as well. We believe it was just one active shooter who is now deceased. We don't believe that there was more than one person involved in this shooting.
Yeah, such a scary situation playing out for people who simply just wanted to go to school today, or perhaps teach their class. And as you can imagine, when you have something like 30,000 students, so many people are impacted by this because they likely know someone who teaches there, who works there in some capacity, or goes to campus there. I can tell you just from the outpouring I'm hearing into my phone, a lot of people checking in on their loved ones, scared because they know someone who was there. Perhaps they went to school there, so they have an affinity for the university. But again, these are our neighbors, and so on some level, we're all feeling what is happening at this hour. But the police presence was swift, and it was fast, and they got to work quickly. And we heard from David Shepard, who is a former FBI agent, tell us that that is the protocol now, and they learned that in light of the fact that we've had so many school shootings and other mass casualty events. There used to be a time, he said, where they would kind of fall back and kind of wait, but they've learned since then that in some cases people can be dying as they're doing that. And so now they are trained and taught to go in ASAP. They also, to their credit, have better equipment, better weapons now that help them fight these type of tragedies.
And they train on this on a regular basis, these active shooter situations. So it's not like they're going in blind to these situations. They train for this. They have a new training center here in the Las Vegas Valley where they will have somebody play the active shooter, and the police arrive on scene, and they'll actually tell them what they did right and what they did wrong about those active shooter situations.
And to that point, there are even drills for students, which, I mean, let's just wrap our brain around that. I'm fortunate enough to grow up in a time when I was in high school, we didn't have mass shootings, and to now learn that that is becoming the norm for our children, to literally know that something tragic like this could happen as they're trying to learn their ABCs or learn, you know, the latest and greatest out of their history book that is being brought to them, and even a teacher. I mean, think about that. You got in this profession because you love children, because you love to teach, and now you're being forced with the reality that, you know, your job, there could be a hazard that walks through the door and ends it all just like that.
Yeah, and we're still trying to identify the suspect in this case, not been identified. Of course, everybody's going to want to know motive on this, something that we never received from the 1 October shooting in this community, never found out a motive in that case. And we're trying to figure out the conditions of the victims here. We don't have those. We understand that 3 people were hit by gunfire, but in unknown condition. So we're trying to get answers to all of this. Metro says they will have another briefing for the media coming up at 5 o'clock this afternoon. And of course, while our cameras are going to be there for that media briefing, we're going to be asking these questions to the extent that we can. But the last time that we heard from Metro, they weren't taking questions. They pretty much had a statement, told us there was no active shooter, that the threat was gone.
Yeah, and part of the reason they said it's because they wanted to make sure that they were accurate in that information, and so they didn't want to give us any false information. And we know these type of stories always have moving parts, and so information is coming in fast and furious, and they want to just make sure that they're being correct before they give us that information. We have a soundbite that our Denise Rosh has just sent in. She talked to somebody who was there on campus. Let's go ahead and hear what they had to say.
Now that I've calmed down a bit, now I just feel angry. The fact that this happens over and over again is ridiculous. School shootings have been happening since I was born. I was born in the year 2000. It's 2023. And I'm tired of it. And like, I don't know how I can just walk around on campus after this.
I was going to say, this is your safe space. This is supposed to be a place where you feel good.
Exactly. This is a place of education, relationships, friendships. College is supposed to be the best time of your life, not the end of it.
Heartbreaking when you hear from that student, and he's right. College is supposed to be the best time of your life, but yet they're met with the unfortunate reality that sometimes that is not the case because of what is playing out in our country in some alarming numbers. Again, you're looking at video of students as they walked out of campus with their hands up. They were holed up in classrooms all over that campus of UNLV today after 11:45 when they got reports of shots fired. They had an active shooter situation, an unfortunate reality for so many of us in our society. And you heard that student saying, we are tired of it. I mentioned that this wasn't my reality when I was in high school. Certainly they started playing out once I was in college. But for that student, that's all he knows.
Yeah, I know. And you know, what's interesting is that we had a reporter on campus as this was going on, but we also had a reporter that was nearby. It was Andrew Nomura, who was very close to the scene of UNLV. And as soon as he found out, he's also one of the people, not only first responders, but Andrew Nomura rushed to the scene as well. And he joins us now live. So Andrew, what was that like when you found out there was an active shooter on campus and you went toward the scene?
Yeah, well, before we even made our way towards UNLV, we were at Sunrise Hospital just up the street, and we just saw so many police units zooming down Maryland Parkway, more than 24, in fact. And while we kept on coming down here, more units start to come, and they eventually took over the street here on Maryland Parkway. As you can see, it's still a dynamic scene as this investigation continues here for this active shooter investigation. I was actually, just to tell you, I just came from the United Methodist Church, which is across the street from UNLV. Asked the pastor, hey, can we charge up our live view? We're losing juice or losing power on our live view to be able to stream for you all. But while I was in there, just saw that they had a whole bunch of UNLV students inside there as they were waiting to be released. So they just got confirmation that they were able to be released just before 2 o'clock. They were able to go to their vehicles or able to leave the scene and get an Uber. So that's good news there. But many of those students there inside that church really distraught. One girl on the phone with her mother. You can see her visibly distressed. We wanted to make sure it's a balancing act, right? It's a sensitive situation, so didn't want to press too hard. But basically, they are extremely distressed over this situation. But currently, right now, still a huge police presence here at the corner of Maryland Parkway and University.
Our Andrew Nomura there on scene, and as we mentioned, he rushed to the scene just like our first responders often do. They run toward the trouble, and so we appreciate journalists like him who they don't know what they're running into, and yet they know they have a job to do to make sure that we can give you all the information that you so desperately want when something like this happens, because you are concerned about your loved ones. We're hearing a report now from NBC News. They've been talking to some people close to the investigation, and they are confirming that unfortunate news that we're hearing now. 3 dead. We're still trying to determine if that's 3 people that were on the campus of university there at UNLV, or if this in fact includes the suspect who we knew from early on was down in the situation. We knew that person was dead, but now we're learning 3 dead. Still trying to confirm if that's 3 dead total, or if this also includes the suspect in addition.
Again, we know that the shooter deceased, 3 victims here of gunfire, and at least 2 of those, maybe all 3 victims, are deceased, according to NBC News this afternoon. We just got that news into the newsroom. We're trying to confirm it in our newsroom as well, but unfortunate news here we just received just seconds ago.
Yeah.
3 dead as a result of this active shooter situation on the campus of UNLV.
Heartbreaking news that we were all
We were hoping that it wouldn't turn into this.
was not that situation, but now we know that at least 3 people dead in this situation. We'll work to find out more, and as we learn more and as we see more, hearts are sinking everywhere.
No doubt. And again, we don't have a motive here. We don't know who the suspect is going to be identified as, and we don't know if these people were targeted or if this is a random act of violence. But shots ringing out on the campus of UNLV at 11:45 this morning, and now we just learned that 3 people have been killed as a result.
Vitalant, the blood center who always answers the call when we have a tragedy like this, also putting out their condolences and saying that their hearts are heavy as we learn more about the tragedy here at UNLV, but also saying that if you would like to do something, blood is always needed. In fact, they've already sent additional blood to Sunrise Hospital to try to aid those who have been injured in this. In fact, you're seeing the statement right now. They're saying approximately 50 additional units of blood products went out to area hospitals in response to this shooting. And of course, if you would like to do your part, you can always roll up your sleeve. And we all saw what happened here on October 1st and October 2nd. So many people did what they could at that time to try to help our fallen neighbors here and people who were visiting to go to the Route 91 Harvest Festival who lost their lives. And we saw people lined up around the building for hours and hours, doing whatever they can to give their blood so that they could do their part to try to help out. And we know that that response, if needed, will be seen, felt once again. But again, a sad day here in Las Vegas as we learn that now 3 people are dead. We're trying to learn more about if that also includes a shooter or if that's in addition to. But for the loved ones who are now learning that unfortunate news, our thoughts are with you.
And I've been scanning social media. That's what I'm doing on the phone here. And I just saw this one, and I thought I'd bring it up because it's poignant. This is from Isaiah Martin on X, and I don't know this gentleman, but he writes, UNLV students were in the middle of finals. They were about to go home for the holidays. Their parents were probably planning fun things to do with their kids in town, Christmas lights, nutcracker markets, or Santa pictures with younger siblings. But now this.
Now this.
And it changes the holidays, not only for the victims of this tragic shooting, but for all the students that were caught up on this today.
Yeah, and for all the people who are watching at home who are thinking, oh my goodness, not again. Let's go ahead and turn now to Denise. Denise Ross, she is there. She went to UNLV. Her family has close ties to the university still. Denise, what can you tell us?
Well, I can tell you 3 hours out from this shooting, and this is still obviously a very active and dynamic scene right here. Some students are still waiting to be picked up, students and faculty waiting to be picked up, others just hoping for more information right out here. One student told me that police took her cell phone temporarily because she had taken several videos near the scene, and they will definitely want to be reviewing that for possible evidence. We also talked to another student who was inside the student union, had to be evacuated, and here's what he said after he's had a chance to take this all in.
Now that I've calmed down a bit, now I just feel angry. The fact that this happens over and over again is ridiculous. School shootings have been happening since I was born. I was born in the year 2000. It's 2023, and I'm tired of it. And I don't know how I can just walk around on campus after this.
I was going to say, this is your safe space. This is supposed to be a place where you feel good.
Exactly. This is a place of education, relationships, friendships. College is supposed to be the best time of your life, not the end of it.
And we also saw a number of students and faculty being escorted off campus, hands in the air, something we have seen every single time there has been a school shooting. And a lot of people out of here are saying this should be the last time we see that, although they are certainly not optimistic about that. Reporting live, I'm Denise Ross for News 3. Let's go back to you in the studio.
Okay, Denise, and that's going to be an active situation for a long time as they investigate this. I'm sure they want to gather all the evidence. So that is going to be locked down for hours upon hours on the campus of UNLV, and streets surrounding the campus are going to be shut down for some time. We don't have an indication for how long. At least Interstate 15 has been reopened this afternoon. They shut that down for emergency vehicles a little bit earlier,
Right.
but that has been opened up.
And one thing we were talking about earlier is that it's an expansive urban campus, and so they have to go from building to building. We've been wondering about what is going on with our Brett Forrest, who was sheltering in place with dozens of students at one of the buildings there on campus, and we since have heard from him.
We have, and in fact, he just posted a video to X about 9 minutes ago, and he said, "We are still sheltered in place until law enforcement clears our building, but I feel comfortable sharing videos from where we are now. I was with several dozen students along with faculty and staff. Doors were blocked, and we hid in as far back of the room as we could."
Wow, and you're looking at that video right there. You can see a lot of them on their phones right now, trying to figure out what is going on because they don't know. They were sheltering in place, and then some of them undoubtedly probably reaching out to their loved ones to let them know that they're okay. But certainly some very tense moments for them.
Yes.
At one point, they had the lights off. They were getting as close as they could to the ground and told to stay away from the windows.
He also posted this with the video. So he had a caption with this saying, this is from Brett Forrest, our reporter here, saying, "A view from our room where we sheltered. Unfortunately, no part of this building had 0 windows. Students, for their part, kept calm and sought out information any way they could. We are still sheltering." This from 6 minutes ago. Don't want to flood out of the building without police clearing us first. So dozens of students in our Brett Forrest still sheltering in place inside that building on the campus of UNLV.
Yeah, very smart of them to stay calm, but it also speaks to just how commonplace this has become, that our students are, at least been warned that stuff like this can happen, and there are drills that are in place at a lot of campuses all across the country, including right here at home. Our Tiffany Lane, she has been there at the media staging event for law enforcement where they briefed us minutes ago. Tiffany, she's now at the convention center where the reunification unit is. Tiffany, let's go ahead and find out from you if you've been able to talk to anyone. Have you seen any families reuniting at this point?
Good afternoon, Latoya. So I will say traffic getting here from UNLV, since we were at the campus earlier covering from that area, there's quite a bit of traffic. So I know my colleague here, Steve Wolford, he got here earlier, and there have been a few families who've been coming here, and I'm sure that there will be more since it does take a while to get here from the campus right now with everything going on and different streets being blocked off. But from what we do see here right now, there is an area inside, and out of respect for those families and students, we aren't going in that area right now. But out here in the courtyard, you do see some people coming from a convention that's happening, but also some families. So you have some students who are actually waiting to reunite with their parents, with their friends, with their loved ones right here at this location. And then you also have parents who are waiting, hoping that their students will be arriving here soon. There were even some students who were getting picked up near the campus. We saw that earlier as well. And I have to tell you, those embraces from what we've seen today, they're tear-jerking. It's just seeing that moment of when everything was happening and not knowing where your student was or where that staff member was very heartbreaking. And so people are holding each other extra tight today, following everything that's going on. And of course, everyone we've spoken to here near the campus, they're keeping those impacted by the shooting in their thoughts as well. We're going to stay out here and speak with more families as they continue to arrive.
Trying to get an idea, I think they have more than 30,000 students on the campus of UNLV. So has it been a flood of students and staff to that location, or has it been more like a trickle?
So what we were told by some of the students, we spoke with one actually right before coming here, he said that they were actually having building by building evacuations so that they wouldn't have all of the students evacuated at once for safety. So he said he actually got out about an hour and a half ago, and that his girlfriend was still inside of one of the other buildings. Thankfully, he said she was safe. He said actually when everything was going down, the first person he contacted was his girlfriend and his friends to make sure they're okay. But several people we've spoken to, several students say they're doing building by building to make sure they don't have everyone evacuating at once. And of course, that's just part of the safety precautions.
Also getting a sense that if students choose, they can get home any way they desire, whether it's walking from where they are on campus to their residence, or they can drive away. They're not required to go from campus to the convention center. Is that your understanding?
That's very correct. So as I mentioned, we did see some people who were walking off campus being picked up by cars in that area. I did speak with some families, one parent who her niece was actually in the dorm and was locked down inside her dorm, she mentioned. So they never left that area. You don't need to come to this area. This is just for some families who thought this was an easier option to reunite. Of course, some people were scared to be picked up in the area of the campus at that time as well, since we knew it was still very active, and from my understanding is still very active at this point. So it's just whatever's more convenient for these families to meet up at this point.
Yeah, and they're also telling people, Tiffany, that they can call ahead as well, 702-455-AIDE, but they're saying that information will be slow going, so they're urging people to have patience if they do call that number and they don't find the exact information that they're looking for. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for your reporting on this, and we'll let you get back to the business of finding out more information for us, as so many people still on edge because we've now learned that at least 3 people have been killed in this situation at UNLV.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some heartbreaking video. Again, I'm scanning the social media feeds. This one on X from an hour ago from somebody named Madeline Carter, and you can see a parent trying to come onto campus of UNLV, trying to reunite with her daughter, a student on campus, and the police officer was saying, you got to stand outside the police tape here and call your student on their cell phone. That's the best way to probably find out if your student is okay. But the frantic parent is caught on social media just trying to reunite with her daughter.
Yeah, you can only imagine what she's going through. And Andrew Nomura also met with a mom there who ran to the scene. She drove from across town to try to find out what was going on with her daughter. Luckily, her daughter was able to text her back and forth, but still on edge because she wanted to see her daughter and be able to touch her and make sure she was okay.
Of course.
Yeah.
And so I know there's a lot of frantic parents out there, probably across the nation, right, of students that go to the campus of UNLV from all over the place for sure.
All right, our governor also responding to what played out at UNLV and still is happening to so many people trying to figure out the latest information in this. Let's go ahead and put up that tweet that he put out. He says, my office is in constant communication with Metro, UNLV, and all emergency response partners. If you're on campus, he's saying, please continue to follow their instructions as campus is evacuated. And of course, they will provide an update to us as well. We're told that the next update will probably come here in about 2 hours at 5 p.m. our time. And so you'll want to stay with us for the latest information. But again, the governor trying to stay abreast of the situation, doing all they can to help out all the law enforcement who descended on UNLV today. Was all hands on deck. They did it quickly and fast and in a hurry, trying to make sure that our students were safe. We showed you some video as this was all playing out, this nightmare, and you saw sharpshooters on top of some of the buildings at UNLV. This is a place that I've been multiple times to cover stories. You've been there multiple times.
Right.
Never could have imagined, even though we report on this all the time, and you hear it from people who have this happen to them say, I see it all the time, but I never thought that it would happen to me.
Of course, yeah. And we're also hearing too from Brian Sandoval. He's the president of UNR, used to be the former governor of the state of Nevada, and he's reaching out with hearts, thoughts, prayers for the campus of UNLV as well. And the Nevada system of higher education said in earlier messages about campuses being closed statewide, that was incorrect. They're correcting that now, saying that only those institutions in Clark County are closed. So that includes UNLV, CSN, Nevada State University, and Desert Research Institute. All have been shut down for the afternoon because of the shooting on the campus of UNLV.
All right, and we mentioned that one of our own, Brett Forrest, was there on campus for another assignment. Had no idea that something like this, of course, was going to go down today, and he was sheltered in place for a number of hours. Brett, where are you now, if you can tell us, and what are you experiencing at this moment?
Well, we are still sheltering in place because that is what UNLV campus alerts have told us to continue doing. But even though the threat we know is no longer there, they are clearing each building one by one to our understanding, with law enforcement going building to building. So we are all still waiting here. We have since left. We are all in the back room, kind of a smaller room, as far back as we could from the main entrance of the building. We've since at least gone back into the main part of this building. So we're spreading out, spacing out finally, but we are still waiting here just for any word on when we might be able to leave this building. But everyone here remains safe where we are, at least. We're out kind of one of the corners of campus, so we don't know how long it might take for law enforcement to get to where we are.
So, Brett, give us an idea, and I know that we talked about this a while ago, but you've been in that room now for more than 3 hours. You got on campus for a separate event, and you were there preceding the shooting at 11:45 this morning. How were you notified, and what was the feeling inside that room when multiple students were receiving the same notification that you were at the same time?
So we had just wrapped up our reporting and interviews for that separate assignment you mentioned. And so my photographer and I were just about to walk out of the building where we were as students started kind of pouring in. They were walking in quickly, rushing in, and they started saying, there's a shooter. We heard there's an active shooter. And immediately we knew something had gone out. And it turns out a UNLV text message alert system had gone out to notify everyone on campus who signed up for those. So my photographer and I did not get that, but immediately we could tell everyone had been notified within minutes, and people from wherever they were outside had to come streaming into our building. Some were part of this student event I was at, others were just happened to be outside. And they came in, and then we immediately went as far back into the building as we could, and some people began blocking the doors and the exits with kitchen freezer, trash cans, whatever heavy objects they could find, just to make sure that they could block the doorways in case anyone was trying to get in. So at least a sense of relief now that people have been able to leave that back room we're in and finally get a little bit of air. But like I said, we're kind of just hunkering down. We think it might be at least another hour or more until we're able to get out of here.
And Brett, when all of this was playing out originally, of course, you all know that you're not in danger right now, but you had no way of knowing this when you all first started to shelter in place. And apparently where you are, from what we could even see from the video that you tweeted out earlier or sent on X, that there were windows everywhere. Tell us what that was like to be in that place at that time, knowing what was going on around you.
To be honest, it was my first time experiencing something like that. I know in this day and age, it's common for a lot of people, but so I knew we shouldn't be near the windows, but we just simply didn't have a choice because there's just so many windows in this building. So the staff and faculty here did a good job kind of taking charge and making sure everyone was at least in that back room where we could be. And yeah, frankly, it was frightening for me since it was my first time experiencing it. And then I was able to eventually calm down and realized our building was a little bit separated from where the shooting was happening. And it is interesting to note, though, I was asking these staff and faculty and the students here, had they trained for these active shooter drills? Because we know a lot of schools, high schools, elementary, middle schools do that these days. But the UNLV staff and the students both said they had not had any formal shooter training. So everyone seemed to know what to do just from, incidents that happen elsewhere around the country, unfortunately to say.
An idea, Brett, if you can, give us a sense of what that room was like when you got those notifications. How emotional did it get inside that room? Was anybody in tears as you realized there was an active shooter just feet away from you outside those doors?
I did not. I was frankly surprised to see just how calm the students were staying throughout the whole process. They immediately just started going through their phones or tablets, whatever they had with them, just trying to get updates from friends, family, colleagues elsewhere on campus, just trying to make sure that their friends were safe. I did hear one student, a woman on the phone, frantically trying to get her friend to check on her other friend on another part of campus. I heard her saying he doesn't have a phone with him. Can you just go make sure he's okay? But overall, surprisingly, these students I'm with, and I'm with dozens of students, they managed to calmly make it through these last several hours. And now, as I said, they're all just kind of waiting just for any any update on when we might be able to get out of here.
All right, our Brett Forrest there, still on lockdown. Thankfully, you are safe. We've been pulling for you and everyone with you since this all started. We'll check in with you a little bit later, but we appreciate you for all that you've been able to do. Before we go to one of our reporters still on the scene there that's been following information, just an update from Metro about nearby schools. They say per CCSD police, students at Paradise Elementary School, which if you are familiar with that school, you know where it is. It's on a soft lockdown, but they are safe. And once they're given the all clear, they'll be bused to Orr Middle School, which is on East Katy Avenue. So this has had an impact on not just people here in this building like Brett Forrest, who works with us, but so many people around the valley.
No doubt. Our Kristen Drummond, she's been positioned there at Sunrise Hospital, and we believe that at least one of the victims was taken there. We understand that 3 people are now dead from this active shooter situation, but we're trying to figure out what the scene is currently at Sunrise Hospital right now, and our Kristen Drummond now joins us.
Well, Dana and Latoya, we've been here at Sunrise Hospital since about 12:20 this afternoon. When we first got here, we noticed a lot of first responders from various agencies, Metro Police, Henderson Fire Department, Clark County Fire Department, all going in towards the back of the Sunrise Hospital emergency room. And the way you get there, you have to turn in where you're right now seeing a bunch of cars turning out, and that will include Metro Police. They have cleared from the entrances, and this happened just about 30 minutes ago because for the last 2 hours they have been making sure no one who isn't supposed to be at the hospital is going in. And we spoke with one man who tells us they were asking if he had any credentials to let him go in because he had a doctor's appointment, and he said he did not, so they turned him away and said you have to keep going. But now it appears that anyone in the community is able to go to the emergency room right now. Now, as you did mention, Sunrise Hospital telling us this afternoon they do have one patient. Who that person is, we do not know at this moment in time. We also don't know if this patient is possibly the extent of their injuries, but Sunrise Hospital has not given us any more updates since then. But as I've mentioned, it appears that the entrances are now back open. Dana and Latoya.
A little bit of progress there at Sunrise Hospital. Thank you so much for that report, Kristen. We're also hearing from Superintendent Dr. Jesus Jar of CCSD. He is offering his condolences to any of the victims and families of this tragedy here at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And he also says that in light of this tragedy, all district-sponsored activities, athletic events canceled today, just out of respect of what our friends at UNLV are going through.
Well, the UNLV men's basketball team, they were supposed to play the University of Dayton in Ohio. They are in Dayton, Ohio, and they were presumably getting ready to go to the arena when they told them that they were going to cancel the game out of respect to what happened at their campus today. And I imagine those basketball players are shaken beyond belief today as well.
I can only imagine they're probably worried about their friends and their classmates. And of course, we know there's no further danger right now
Thank goodness.
In place. But thank you for that. But we do know that this is not over for so many who are still sheltering in place, including our very own Brett Forrest, who has been there for hours now. He was in one of the buildings for a separate story. We've also seen a number of students who have been able to be relieved of being stranded there and trapped inside the buildings. In fact, we saw some of them earlier with their hands up, and that's what they, of course, tell them to do. A surreal picture playing out as you see officers patting down these students as they walk out to give them the all clear that they're okay. And we do know that some of them are being transported over to the convention center in the North Hall. In fact, we heard from our Tiffany Lane, who's there now, who says that she's been given word that hundreds of them, in fact, are headed in that direction as families try to reunite with their loved ones. In fact, let's go ahead and check in with Tiffany, who's still there at the convention center at this hour.
Yes, Latoya, Dana. So we just received an update from the county. They came up to us and told us that the first bus with students from UNLV will be arriving here. We're actually trying to monitor because we believe that bus may be coming behind us, and if that happens, I will move out of the shot. But these are students who are, obviously trying to get away from that situation. We were told that once they get here to meet up with their family, their loved ones, their friends, they also have services available for for them here, social services, mental health services, anything that can help them. I mean, this trauma it all happened just very shortly, very recently, and so they have a lot that they're going through right now. So right when they get here, all of that is available. Now, I did ask how many buses they are anticipating at this point, and they didn't have a clear answer, but we do know again that that first bus will be arriving here from UNLV shortly.
Tiffany Lane there, who is at the convention center, is being the temporary reunification unit for families to be reunited with any students and staff who are there. We're expecting hundreds, as you heard her say, show up at any minute now. They're coming in on buses. And we're also learning now that crisis support services making available emotional support for anyone who is going through this right now. In fact, you can call 988 and someone who is trained will be able to talk to you about the feelings that undoubtedly you're trying to unpack right now and trying to make sense of the senseless. Again, that's 988. They are standing by, available to help you.
I know Jim Snyder, he was efforting to get down to the campus of UNLV. I don't know if he's made it there yet. Oh, we have Sky 3 now. So Kelly Curran, you're up in Sky 3. You have been since this afternoon. And we're seeing some progress on Interstate 15, right? I mean, it was completely shut down. It looked like in both directions for a time earlier on this afternoon.
Yeah, I-15 is back open now in both directions. So that's not going to be a problem for us anymore. We were just allowed over here by the scene, though, so that's where we are right now. We're over Maryland Parkway here at UMC's campus, or UNLV's campus, rather. And yeah, you see a very large police presence. Maryland Parkway is closed. Tropicana from Maryland Parkway over to about Paradise, or actually about to almost to the Boulevard, is closed there as well. University Center Drive also closed. Again, we're just arrived on the scene, so we're trying to figure out exactly what we're looking at here. It looks like we've got some tents set up. I don't want to zoom in too tight just because I'm not entirely sure what we're looking at, but I will do that. I'm going to do that now, and then I'm going to come back to you guys later when I got a better idea of what I'm looking at here.
Okay, thank you for that. We appreciate it. The bird's eye view from Sky 3, the only news helicopter in the state of Nevada, and it's obviously coming in handy on a day like today. So our Jim Snyder, he has left the station. He's now down at the campus of UNLV, and you've lived in this community for more than 3 decades, and stories like these impact people like you who have lived here for a long time, who call this place home in different ways than people who may have just moved here recently.
No doubt about it. I was just remembering, Dana, my son took piano lessons in one of those buildings here at the UNLV campus some years ago. And so, like everybody here in this community, that we have attachments. Either we know people who are in school here now or who have come through school here. I can tell you, it took, I'm standing right in the middle of University and Maryland Parkway here. We just saw Sky 3 fly overhead. To get here, I came down Eastern, kind of came in the back way down Rochelle, and got some side streets that way. But what really strikes me walking up to this scene is, passing dozens of people, either in law enforcement or the media, and you can see behind me, I mean, I couldn't even begin to count the number of emergency vehicles that are down here. I would believe somewhere between 50 and 100, maybe upwards of that. And it is just so quiet outside of an occasional, squawk or squeak from a police siren as somebody's trying to get past a barricade or something like that. Really, not many people are even talking down here, just standing in stunned silence. So not a lot of activity with the emergency vehicles going on down here, but just arriving on the scene. We'll be here as they continue to work this investigation, and as new information comes in. It was during my drive down here, Dana and Latoya, that the news broke. You guys broke the news that we are talking about deceased victims in this shooting on the UNLV campus. So just, it's heavy down here for sure, for good reason, and all the reasons that you guys have been talking about.
Yeah, Jim, you can hear it in your voice, and we've been feeling that since the shooting began at 11:45 our time, so thank you. And we'll check back in coming up in a little bit, but we just want to give confirmation to everybody that 3 people were hit by gunfire, all 3 presumed dead this afternoon, plus the shooter, so that leaves 4 people dead on the campus of UNLV. We know that some of those people were transported to Sunrise Hospital. At least one was transported to Sunrise Hospital, as it's a very active investigation. They're going to have crime team up for hours, I would imagine, all the way through the nighttime hours on the campus of UNLV, as students there were in the midst of taking their final exams.
Right, and some of them are still sheltering in place as police try to make their way to them. They're going building by building, so that will take a while. We're also hearing from President Biden at this hour. He just made a statement a short time ago about the shooting, and it reads in part that Jill and I join citizens across our nation in praying for families of our fallen and for those who were injured during these latest acts of senseless violence. We are also grateful for the courageous work of law enforcement who risk their own safety to bring an end to deadly shooting sprees. And of course, just yesterday, Austin, Texas and San Antonio, Texas had at least 6 people who were killed by a gunman there. And then he also goes on further in his statement to talk about just the massive issue that is plaguing our country, as we've seen more than 600 mass shootings and approximately 40,000 deaths due to gun violence this year alone.
Yeah, the debate rages on in our nation's capital, doesn't it? The President of the United States has talked about this many times, and you have people on two sides of this issue, obviously, but a shooting like that happened at the campus of UNLV, which will make national news today, unfortunately, for all of the wrong reasons, will only further spark this debate that we're having in our country about what to do with guns in our country. There's, right now, it doesn't seem to be any definitive answer. Do we need to change out the microphone? I'm hearing some popping right now.
Popping, and we apologize for that. Let's go ahead and turn to Kelly Curran, who has the latest from the traffic situation. Kelly?
We're actually still here above the scene, and this is a look at what we're seeing here at Maryland Parkway, right in front of UNLV's campus. I did get a chance to zoom in and look around a little bit. These are actually the mass casualty tents that are set up. You see the green, yellow, red, and that's usually help determine the severity of injuries before they take them off to the hospital. Happy to say there is nobody under those tents. So at least there are no other victims, at least here on the scene. Anyone who may have been harmed in this has already been taken to the hospital if they have injuries. Now, there again is still a very large police presence. We do expect Maryland Parkway here to be closed between about Tropicana and Flamingo here for probably the rest of the night, to be honest. And northbound and southbound 15, those are back open. Tropicana is closed at Paradise. So if that's how you normally get to the airport and you have a flight this evening, you're going to want to avoid that. Try using the airport connector or using Russell instead is going to be your better bet. But again, we're continuing to monitor the scene here of the shooting at UNLV. You can see those mass casualty tents still set up, but not being used. And that is at least some good news, guys.
I would say that is good news, but we still don't know where all the victims are. I mean, some may have died right there on campus. That's a possibility. We believe that at least one, was transported to nearby Sunrise Hospital. Hopefully we'll be getting some of those answers coming up. Metro has another briefing coming up at 5 o'clock, and hopefully they'll be able to identify the suspect in the shooting. Maybe they'll have a motive. Were these people targeted or not? We'll be asking all those questions. Our cameras will be inside that briefing at Metro headquarters at 5 o'clock tonight.
Yeah, and as we work to find out more information, of course, and offer our condolences, we also know that so many of you are hurting right now. Let's go ahead and listen to a UNLV student talk about what it was like to be in the midst of this.
And Carlos Espinosa, he joins us live by the phone. I think you were inside the UNLV School of Law, the Boyd School of Law today. So describe what you saw when this all came down around 11:45 today.
Yeah, so I was in law school. I was taking a final. It was from 9 a.m. to 12. So as we were finishing up the final and we were turning everything in, they told us, y'all can't go. There's an active shooter on campus. And since we hadn't had our phones or anything because of the final we were taking, we were kind of in shock. And we all just kind of rushed to our phones to see if it was real because, you know, you don't want to think it is real. But we got all the notifications and saw everything on the news. And they told us just to stay there. And we were just there scared because apparently it happened really close to where we were at. But thankfully, we're good now.
Started to set in, Carlos, as you started to learn that this is not a drill. This is, in fact, a real threat. What was going through your mind at that moment?
Well, I was just really worried because at first, I mean, I've only come here from law school, so I only really go to one building, which is the law building. And I looked on the map where this was going on and everything, and I saw it was really close. And I think, I mean, I got really scared. I called my family. I told them what was going on, and I was just like, hey, I don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, in that moment, it's kind of like a blur. I even kind of forgot really what happened after that. It was just scary.
Were the people around you, did you see any tears over there today on the campus of UNLV? Were people that emotional when this happened, or did they take a more measured approach to all of this?
Well, I think everyone was kind of shocked at first, but since we got the news, like our final ended at 12, and it was already, the police had already shown up on campus and everything, and we saw that the police was had everything surrounded, we felt a bit safer at that point because we know the law school has you can't just walk in. It has you have to have a card and everything. So, and then we just knew the police was around. So I guess we felt a bit safe knowing that we were in a relatively safe location. But yeah, there was definitely mixed emotions. But I wasn't really paying attention to everyone else. Really, I was kind of more calling my family and letting them know.
And Carlos, now that reality has started to set in, I'm sure you're still trying to unpack your feelings going forward. You're still a student there. You still have finals to take. What's that going to be like for you to have to step back onto the campus?
Yeah, well, I think that's the question a lot of us had. At least for the law school, they already told us that the finals are canceled through Saturday, and they're evaluating the situation. I wouldn't be surprised if they offer some sort of option for those who don't want to come back to campus. I personally, don't want to, just because, it's just scary. But, yeah, I think we still really don't know what's going to happen, and there's just a lot of uncertainty around that. But at the same time, I think within everything, that's probably one of the least important things right now because we're just all really thankful that we're good.
Let me ask you about that, Carlos. You said you don't want to go to campus right now. What does that mean? For how long? Have you been able to sort that through yet? How long do you want to stay away from campus, and how afraid are you of something like this recurring?
Yeah, so the thing is, this was actually my last, second to last final, and then I'm done with school, of law school, and I don't plan on going back to school. This was honestly my last time probably ever on a campus, at least as a student, or one of the last times. So it's just kind of shocking, which I guess in a sense is good for me because I don't have to worry about next semester. But just even coming back to take that one last final that I have is just I don't know. I don't think I'd be able to focus during my final. Hey, what's going on? So yeah, I can't imagine for people who still have to do 4 years of undergraduate or a lot longer. So I'm thankfully a little bit fortunate on that side that I don't really have to come back after this next final.
One of the lucky ones, Carlos. We're so glad that you and everyone who was with you, that you are okay, but we know that there are some wounds we can't see right now, and so we'll be thinking of you as you all try to pick up the pieces and try to get back to some sense of normalcy. Thank you for joining us. He said that at least what they're learning is that finals are canceled at least through Saturday, but like he said, that's the least of their worries right now as they just grapple with the danger that came so close to their door. We've been hearing from a number of leaders in our community, also the president speaking out about this as well, and Dr. Jara, the superintendent of Clark County Schools, the latest to offer his condolences.
Yeah, and here's his statement. He says the Clark County School District offers our deepest condolences to the victims and families of this tragedy at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. UNLV is a vital part of the Nevada education community, and CCSD stands united with the UNLV community. We had that student on the phone there, and you could hear it in his voice, and it's going to be a long healing process, not just for one student, but for the more than 30,000 students that go to school on the campus of UNLV, and it will hit different students in different ways, I imagine. Some may never return to campus after what happened there today, 11:45, gunshots ring out, 3 people were shot to death, and the shooter also dead this afternoon as well.
And there is help available for anyone who just wants to talk about whatever they're going through, even if they don't even know how to really process that and really verbalize that. If you don't have the vocabulary for it, there are experts who want to listen to you. You can call 988. They're offering that service for everyone there that's impacted. I think it's really poignant what you said about it's going to impact people differently. And even if they weren't on campus today, perhaps they missed school today for
Right.
whatever reason.
Not
or they
everybody
were
had
stuck
class today, right?
Yeah, or they were stuck in traffic. It's still going to hit them. And even those who have no affiliation with the university right now. This is happening in our community, the place that we love, the place that many of us have lived there for years, or perhaps you're new to the community. But one thing I can say, if you are new to this area, a lot of people know us for the glitz and the glamour of the entertainment capital of the world, but we also are a community, and we have unfortunately faced tragedy before, and we will rally and put our arms around each other and support everyone who needs it until they don't need it anymore.
We are Vegas strong. Those words ring true again today, just like they did 6 years ago. Our Tiffany Lane joins us from the Convention Center this afternoon. They're calling that the Reunification Center. Some students have been arriving to the center, and we assume they're on that bus as we speak. Tiffany?
Yes, so we are waiting. We do see a bus here, an RTC City bus. Now, we don't know yet if these are staff and students from UNLV. We're going to continue to monitor that, but we did see when this bus was pulling up just a moment ago, we did see some law enforcement officials getting on there, speaking with the driver. So we're waiting as these individuals get off to see if this is the bus with the UNLV students. I do actually see some families that are running over towards the bus, so that is a sign that this could possibly be it. One of the things we do know is that these are people who are coming from UNLV at this reunification center. This is the area where those who weren't able to be picked up or even leave and evacuate from that UNLV area chose to come here to meet with whoever they are trying to meet up with. We also know that another thing they have at this convention center for them when they arrive outside of that reunification is that there are social services. We do see the vehicles for that from the county, as well as mental health services available. We do know that this has been a very, very traumatic day for so many people who were on that campus, people who are around the campus. So all of that is available when they get here now. As you see, this bus is going around. I don't know if these are individuals being dropped off at a different location, but we will meet up with the county right now to get a little more information. They might just be dropping them off around the corner there where there are fewer cars. But again, I did see some families running towards that bus right now, hoping to see if their family member is on there.
From them, obviously, right? So hopefully you'll be able to have some access to them, and we're also hoping to see some of the reunions that are taking place inside the convention center. Those will be emotional this afternoon as well.
Yeah, have you heard anything so far from the people who may be waiting to reunite with someone who's on a bus right now?
Yeah, so Steve Wolford and I have been here for a while now, and there have actually been some students who arrived in a different way other than the buses, who got here on their own, who were able to meet up with their parents. We also saw some parents who've been waiting here, who've been trying to get in contact with their children. So some of those individuals actually were reunited just through different routes other than using the bus. And then we do see some people that are still arriving here at this point, but we do know just something we personally experienced driving from UNLV to over here, the traffic was very heavy, so it has been taking some people a while to arrive at this location. You know, obviously this is a very personal time for some of these families to meet up because earlier we were speaking with some families. They weren't able to get a hold of their kids when they were calling them, and so it's just been very emotional, not only for the staff and students on campus, but also the families just trying to get answers and make sure that their children, their siblings, their loved ones are okay.
Tiffany, we're also hearing from Steve Wolford, our reporter, who's also at the convention center. He just texted this to me. He said he's looking at what is likely a dozen unmarked police sedans. People who got out were likely detectives, according to Steve, and he imagined they're going to be taking statements. I don't know if from your vantage point you can see what Steve is talking about with those unmarked police sedans arriving there at the convention center.
Yes, you can actually see some of them lined up here in front of the North Halls. We also saw some that were just passing by in front of the South Halls just, I want to say, in the last 10 minutes or so. They're pulling up We have some in the parking lot. They're literally scattered all around the convention center, waiting for these individuals to arrive from UNLV to be able to get some answers from them, because we know there are still just so many unanswered questions and so many people who happened to be there when all of this was going on.
All right, our Tiffany Lane there at the Reunification Center, stage now in the North Hall of the Convention Center. We saw bus loads of people from UNLV being transported there. They're waiting to be reunited with their loved ones. And we have our Marie Mortera joining us now here in studio. Marie, you do our Mental Health Matters segment, and you've learned a lot as you've talked to expert after expert. This undoubtedly will be a time when people would need those type of services.
Well, it wasn't too long ago when we were at UNLV for a Mental Health Matters town hall, talking about community support, the importance of being there for each other, and what a difficult day. My mind goes back to those professionals, and one was actually a recent graduate student who was there as a mentor to his fellow students, talking about the difficulty of simply being a student during that time of transition. And then something like this happens right before the holidays, just as they were taking their finals. Dr. Michelle Paul, she's the executive director of UNLV Practice. It is a UNLV-led community health organization, but it's also for the community. She is safe tonight, and she's telling me that there are resources online at unlv.edu/campuslife/wellness, and we'll put that on our website too as well. But tonight there will also be a community event. Minister Stretch Sanders, community leader who we've seen here, we're learning that it'll be at the historic 5th Street School. Music and grief counselors available from 7 to 8:30 tonight. Quote, a safe space for our community to come together, pray, talk, or just be in support of one another. We've been hearing from these students talking about they do not feel safe. It's supposed to be their sanctuary. And there's a lot of talk that there have been these drills, right? And sadly, on one hand, we can say that's our new normal. But there was a professor telling MSNBC today, this is not okay.
Right.
This is, we can do these drills.
It's a new normal, but we don't have to be okay with it.
No, certainly not. And it's Jason Johnson, and he said, you know, these students are not going to be okay. The impact of this kind of violence is so extreme on the faculty, on the staff, on the feelings of everybody, and it lingers, and that these kids have lost their safety.
Yeah, we just talked to a student, Carlos, who said he doesn't want to return to campus.
Right. Exactly, and you can see some of the images from campus earlier today, but it is rocked the campus of UNLV, and not just that, but it's rocked the entire city of Las Vegas, the Southern Nevada community, just like the 1 October shooting did 6 years ago. And so we're still healing from that from 6 years ago, and now this, but it just seems like it's never ending, right?
And the president spoke to that just a few minutes ago. He released a statement talking about this is not normal and we can never let it become normal. He pointed out in his statement as he offered his condolences that we've already, our nation, this year alone, 600 mass shootings. 40,000 people have died due to gun violence this year. Staggering numbers.
Yeah.
It just really takes your breath away. This community is hurting once again, as you pointed out, Dana. Not too many years ago, where we saw the 15 shut down because of 1 October. Today, once again, the freeway shutting down, because of another emergency response. And it was just last week when we said farewell to 2 law enforcement officers killed on the side of the freeway.
I read a story in the news last night. The year's not done. They were saying that 2023 would be a record-breaking year for mass shootings in America.
Right.
And right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's not like they're going down. They're going up.
And, you know, when we hear those numbers and we're seeing, you know, 3 sadly lost their lives here today, they're not just numbers. There's somebody, there's somebody's loved one, there's somebody's everything. And sadly, they are no longer here. And we want to just say that our hearts are hurting for you now. And we are here with you trying to do our best to give deference to the seriousness of the situation. Also very thankful for all the people who are safe at this hour. One of them, one of our own. We have Dominic on the phone as well. He is an editor there, but an editor here at our operation at News 3, but also a UNLV student. Dominic, you were one of the first people to alert us that trouble was brewing there on campus. I think all of our hearts dropped when we saw your email out to everyone at the station saying that you were in hiding.
Yeah, it was scary. I'm back home safe with my family, so it's okay. But I've never been a part of this. I grew up in Vegas, and I saw 1 October, and tragedy is different when you're on the outside looking in. But being a part of it, it was scary. But it's learning journalism and being around everyone at KSMV. I kind of remembered like you have to tell a difficult story sometimes. So that's what kind of put me into action. And I just wanted to communicate that I was safe because I know I'm close with a lot of people at the station, just kind of update everyone as soon as possible, as much as I could through the fear.
So, Dominic, what was it like? I mean, we've been asking everybody that's experienced it, and we've got slightly different answers from everybody, but you received some sort of a notification on your phone around 11:45 this morning that there was an active shooter on your campus. Tell us what it was like, and tell us what it was like for the people that you were surrounded by.
It was really scary, Dana. I got the text when I was preparing for a final. It was just like any other day, and I was putting some finishing touches on my final project for my class that I had today. And I was just sitting talking with some of my friends, and we got that text. And one of our other teachers ran through the hallway and said, like, hey, like, shelter in place, get down, hide, do something. And we're hiding, and I can hear everyone in the room with me. One of my teachers, I hear us all kind of like breathing heavy, and they're shaking breaths, and we were sitting there and hiding, and everyone was calling me. My mother was calling me and asking if I was okay, and I had to update everyone as I was going through it. And it's something you don't think you would experience, but just kind of sitting through there, all the thoughts, not to be morbid, but all the thoughts that was going through my head was, I don't think I'm going to be walking out of here. I didn't think I'd be able to walk out of here alive and be able to do this or anything like that. And it was really scary. And my teacher opened the door to tell us to like leave because I guess he got some sort of clearance. And when that door opened, I thought that was it. But then I heard his voice and I was relieved. And we left, and that added another layer. We left, and then that's when the reports came out that the shooter was at the student union, which was basically a rock's throw from the journalism school, and everyone was running towards us, telling us to run. So we had to run for our lives. And thank goodness for our professor. She's formerly on air here, Kevin E. Martin from Channel 8. She let me and my friends into her car and drove us far away from campus to keep us safe. But just overall, it's shaken, and it shook me to my core. It was something that I wouldn't wish on anybody.
And Dominic, again, I'm going to reiterate this. We are just so glad that you are at home safe, and that we have you here to talk about your experience. And I'm glad as well that you felt safe there with your professor. Now let's talk about, if we even can, what are your thoughts now about UNLV? We've spoken about this before, that you can practice, you can drill for something like this, but at the same time, no one expects to go through something like this.
Yeah, I wish I could answer that and tell you how to really properly prepare. I think just with the UPD response and the response of the faculty, I think it was well executed. It's just the systematic clearance of buildings. I do think maybe some active shooter training would be good because me and everyone in the room froze, and the newsroom in the UNLV journalism building is half glass. So it would have been really easy to get into, and much like Brett talked about earlier, there was a lot of windows and we couldn't really get away. So I think maybe better real active shooter training would have been a good thing for this case. So we know what set rooms we could go to, and it's sad that we have to deal with that, but maybe that's what's next, and that's just something that we have to adjust to in the world that we live in today.
We talked to one student who said he wasn't going back to campus. How about you? How do you feel about going back to UNLV?
I don't want to go back there anytime soon. It's something that I felt safe on campus, but now I don't feel as safe. It's something that is going to stick with me for the rest of my life, and it's just going to be in the back of my head every time I drive up to campus, whether it's for my graduation in May or for class. It's going to stick with me, and I don't want to go to campus anytime soon. I don't want to go back, and honestly, I don't know what's next for the school, but I'm sure any other students watching could relate. I don't want to take finals. I don't think I'm in the mental state to be able to take finals knowing that something happened on my campus like that. And I don't know how I can focus and try and pass the rest of my classes like this. And I don't think it would be fair to the students to have them try and do that.
And that's the tragedy of this all, is that people who go through this, they are forever changed. It's not just the people who maybe saw the threat firsthand, who came up close to it, and sadly those who pass away, but certainly it leaves a stain on people's minds forever. And Dominic, as someone who has the pleasure of working with you, I think I can speak for all of us to say that our hearts are breaking for you and everyone else on that campus right now. We hate that you had to go through it, and so many people say that you shouldn't have to go through it, and we all know that as well. So we'll be here for you from now until you don't need us. And so you are not alone, and I'm sure the same can be said for many of the people that you sheltered in place with today. Thank you so much. We'll check back in with you if it's possible. But that's the real, I think, heartbreaking.
Of course.
You know, to know someone like that and just to hear from him and the other students who are like, I never want to go back to this campus. I can't do it.
And we have friends and family that were at the Route 91 Harvest Festival, right? I mean, Fred Smith is a good buddy of mine, and his wife's sister was murdered that night. And that's something that you live with for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
And so now you're going to have students on this campus who never want to go back to the campus of UNLV.
And to speak to, Marie, if you can, of the help that's available to, you often hear people say we're Vegas strong, or we're not going to let the shooter or the shooters win in whatever case we're talking about. Let's talk about the road to healing and how we get there.
Well, no doubt, it's going to be different from person to person. And it will take time. It'll also take a lot of community support. The Vegas Strong was born out of tragedy. And I'm reminded by survivors of 1 October who say that they are stronger because of that. Yes, they have physical and they have wounds that you cannot see as well, that will be around for a very long time. But I've spoken to people who they call themselves routers. Not just survivors, but they're routers because they came through.
Right,
you know,
from the Route 91 Harvest Festival. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and so
that's a piece of them now. That's a part of them.
them.
They carry that with them every day.
And it is a reframing of the identity and that ability to come together. I actually know of a firefighter who was there that night who will be coming back to Las Vegas this weekend with others in the healing process. It's his way of also helping others to heal. So, but the conversation tonight is, are people safe? Do they feel safe? What do they need? And this will be an ongoing conversation for not only tonight, but for days, weeks, months, and years to come.
All right, let's go ahead and check in with our Kristen Drummond. She has been at Sunrise Hospital for hours now. And Kristen, I hear you've learned some more information about what has all sadly unfolded.
Metro Police just telling us and confirming 3 people are dead and another person is in critical condition. Let's wait for this ambulance to pass by as they're turning into Sunrise Hospital. Again, Metro confirming 3 people are dead and another person is in critical condition. Metro Police saying that person is at a local hospital, not confirming if it is Sunrise Hospital. But as we've seen today, there's been a lot of activity here at Sunrise Hospital. And I even went back to that emergency room area about 20 minutes ago. There is still a police presence. Not as many first responders as we saw at around 12:30 this afternoon. But Metro Police are still there by the emergency room. And we also received an update from Sunrise Hospital. This is the statement right there on your screen. It says that this afternoon, Sunrise Hospital Trauma Center received 3 patients from the UNLV campus active shooter incident. Our hearts go out to the UNLV community, their families, and everyone impacted by this tragedy. And Dr. Chris Fisher, who is the trauma medical director at Sunrise Trauma Center, also addressed about the number of patients who came in and received their help.
Sunrise Trauma Center received 3 patients from the UNLV incident that we are actively treating. Once we were notified of the UNLV incident, we activated our mass casualty protocol and had the staff in preparedness to treat many more patients than we received. During the incident, we remained open to all ambulance traffic, and now we are currently open to all patients at our ER. Our hearts go out to the community of UNLV, to those patients and their families, and to the greater Las Vegas community at large. At Sunrise, we are prepared to take care of additional patients if need be, and we are still open to local ambulance traffic.
So the doctor mentioning that they are open to ambulance traffic, but earlier we did see them turning away patients who were trying to access the emergency room here at Sunrise Hospital. Metro Police outside checking credentials, making sure only those ambulance traffic, doctors, nurses, other medical staff were the only ones having access to the emergency room here behind me. And when we were showing those images earlier, it may not have seemed like a lot of action, but that's because the emergency room is actually on the back side of this building. So in order to get there, you have to turn into the hospital, go down a road, and then make a right. And as I've mentioned, Metro Police are still there at this moment in time, as we believe that the person that Metro Police is saying is in critical condition is here at the hospital, and Sunrise Hospital confirming that 3 patients did go there. Dana, Latoya.
Before you leave us, Kristen, I just want to make sure for accuracy's sake. So when you say 3 are dead, are we talking 3 victims? Is that not including the suspect who we heard about on the onset of this?
Metro Police not confirming if that includes the suspect, but from what we understand, they are just saying, sorry, it is 3 victims. I apologize. It is 3 victims that are dead, and another person, which is a victim, is in critical condition. So that is now a total of 4 people that we know who have been hurt.
Reporting for us now, Kristen Drummond, thank you for that sad update. We have 3 victims dead, another person in critical condition at a local hospital. We're not sure if that's Sunrise. She was talking about how we didn't see a lot of activity, but I was struck by what we did see, and that was before, when we were talking to her earlier, there was no traffic on the roads. They had everything shut down.
Shut down so they could get the victims to the hospital in a timely fashion. And that was the first time we heard that now there's 4 victims, right? 4 people were shot by this active shooter. That's the first time we've heard that this afternoon. Earlier updates coming from Metro and others saying that there was 3 people shot. For the first time, we're hearing 4 now.
And one of those people in critical condition. So we will stay on top of what we learned from the hospitals. In the meantime, let's go back out to UNLV now. We have our Jim Snyder there. And Jim, not only are you there, but you are with Brett and photojournalist Jay as well, joining us. And glad to see them. They were on lockdown. Let's get to you guys right away, hear how they're doing.
Yeah. Murray, this is really a sight for sore eyes for our News 3 family to see Jay and Brett here in the flesh. You've been hearing from Brett all afternoon. Guys, we're so glad you came through this okay. You were right, and you were there from the beginning, and now we want to find out a little bit more about how that played out. You were just wrapping up shooting an unrelated story. We're about to leave that classroom.
Yeah, we're just a couple buildings over from here. We're trying to walk out the door when some students just start kind of pouring in the door, which right away I thought this is kind of strange, and then they started saying there's a shooter, we have to shelter in place. My first thought to Jay is said we should maybe go check it out. Obviously terrible idea. So
we're a journalist, that's your first instinct.
Yeah, I thought maybe we should see what's going on, see if it's accurate. We almost immediately got an update from UNLV text messages with the people in the room saying
All right, that was Jim Snyder there talking to our very own reporter Brett Forrest. As he mentioned, obviously we're having technical difficulties, but so surreal to see someone who you see usually reporting the news has now suddenly become part of the news.
Well, he was on campus for something else entirely. He was there before the shots rang out, and then they all got these notifications on their phone that there was an active shooter on campus. And so people sprung into action, and they kind of knew exactly what to do. They locked the doors, and then they moved all of the heavy furniture they could find, including refrigerators or whatever was inside, and they put those against the door, turned off the lights, stayed away from the windows. You wouldn't think that you would have to know what to do in a situation like this, but it sounds like they knew exactly what to do.
Yeah, interesting to know, too, is that they've probably just knew what to do from all of the unfortunate mass shootings that have happened around the country, because we learned today they haven't actually had any drills there at UNLV. At least the students that we've talked to said that they didn't have a drill, but they just knew what to do because, sadly, this has become a common occurrence.
It's a story we do far too often.
Right.
And right before we lost Brett, I'm sorry, we were just hearing from our producer. Is Brett available again?
It was Sky 3.
Oh, Sky 3. All right, so let's go back out to Sky 3 now for another vantage point. Kelly, what are you seeing from where you are?
Well, we did see the police sweeping the building, and we actually took some of the kids out a little bit earlier. Now, here's what we're seeing right now. This is the scene here at Maryland Parkway, right in front of UNLV's campus, and you can see this is kind of the base here where they've got those mass casualty tents up. You see a huge police presence, a SWAT vehicle here as well, fire is on scene, Clark County Fire, ambulances here as well. And I want to talk about the road closures here. So Maryland Parkway right now is closed from Flamingo to Tropicana. It's going to be closed probably most of the evening, so let's just try and stay away from there. University Center also closed from Tropicana to Flamingo. Tropicana also closed here from about Koval over to Maryland Parkway, and that could definitely cause some problems for you if you're trying to get to the airport. If you do have a flight to catch, of course, check in, make sure everything is set to fly. You don't want to use Paradise, though. Let's try and use the 215 airport connector there, or use Russell to get to that. Harmon, a segment of Harmon also closed here from University Center over toward Maryland Parkway because of this situation. Again, this will likely be closed for several hours. Now, the 15 north and southbound is back open. That is all reopened there. So now it's just the area immediately around the campus that we're continuing to deal with these closures. And again, the biggest presence right here on the screen. That's where you're seeing the bulk of the action right now. And you can still see quite a few officers kind of standing around talking, probably getting some briefings, trying to figure out what they've seen. It looks like they're packing up part of that mass casualty tent there as well. The yellow one is actually being packed up at the moment. The red one's already gone. So that is good news. At least we're packing those away.
Yeah, and at this hour, we're looking for all the good news we can find. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Right, there hasn't been much.
I'm wondering how many of these protocols, practices that were put in place today came from 1 October.
Oh, I'd say a lot of them,
Yeah,
right?
I would say
And we were talking about this earlier on the air, is that they practice now, local law enforcement, for these active shooter situations. They have a new training facility, and they'll have somebody go inside the building and play the active shooter, and they'll get the call and they'll rush in. So law enforcement trains for this constantly, and I think they've changed protocols at our local hospitals as well,
Yes.
because what happened on 1 October, I mean, it just flooded the emergency rooms in town, and quite frankly, they were on the edge of not being able to handle all of the mass casualties.
Let's go ahead and check back in to our Jim Snyder. He is there with our Brett Forrest. We also have one of our photojournalists, Jay, there as well. They were telling the harrowing tale of how they became the news today. They at first, we were just hearing how Brett said their first instinct was to actually run to the trouble, and then he quickly realized that wasn't a good idea.
Right, and glad to have the signal back up. And this is really kind of a rare perspective that we're able to get because these guys were inside. And Jay, when our signal went out, you were telling us about it hitting you the moment.
Yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking. My first instinct was obviously hide, and second is just try to, I guess, stay alive and try to make it home to my kids, my wife. It's just really tough,
Well, we're so glad that you are all right, both of you guys. Now that you're out here and out of the situation, is it starting to hit you differently?
It's surreal. Jay and I keep looking around because we've been sheltered in place for the last 4 hours. We just got out 15 minutes ago. We were in a building right over here, and when I pulled up the map and realized how close we were to it, it's my first time being in a situation like this. We cover it on the other side, like you said, a lot. But to be sheltering in place, I've never done that. I was frankly shaking a bit at the start, but once I saw how calm the students were, which really hit me, generational thing maybe, just because they've kind of grown up with this.
Sadly, yeah.
I was probably the most nervous one there at the start, and then once I saw how calm they were, it calmed me down, and there were probably, I think as we were saying, almost 50 people with us, mostly students, some teachers and faculty, and a lot of these students, we were interviewing them, they're graduating in 2 weeks, so it's just tough to think that they had to go through this right before their graduation.
No doubt. Tell us a little bit about, Brett, the protocol as you exited the building. What were police telling you?
So it's interesting because we thought we might have to come out with our hands up. I had just witnessed some students over to the side of us doing that same thing, but a police officer came, campus police officer, and he basically just said, you can grab your belongings and just walk out these doors to the basketball arena, the Thomas and Mack Center, and then once they saw us that we weren't students, they sent us over here. So I think at this point, because we're kind of on the edge of campus, they had hit most of the other buildings to evacuate them, that they were comfortable kind of letting us come out with our stuff, and we didn't have to put our hands up or anything.
Jay, Brett was talking about how calm everyone remained. Did that go through the afternoon, even as you waited hours for the police to come?
Yeah, students were kind of, I guess, helping, me and us, because we were kind of not showing it, but I was still scared, and like I said, yeah, we were looking at our updates on our phones, try to keep as quiet as we can, it's just, on the floor and stuff like that. It was something different. I can say, and I think I don't want to ever live it again. Right. That's for sure. But it's a part of my nature, I guess, of our job nowadays.
Well, sadly, yes. And we're going to let you get home to your family. What's the first thing you're going to do when you get home tonight?
Tell them I love them and hug them, for sure.
All right. Yeah. You guys feel like you're holding up all right? It's been a taxing day.
Yeah. Again, it's just surreal to come out and just see this heavy police presence, just because we've been in such a small, confined room for 4 hours. And yeah, I think it's going to take a while to hit me. But yeah, my heart goes out to all these students, especially who I was with today. None of us expected this kind of day. When I met all them and was interviewing them earlier. So it's just, yeah, it's terrible to see.
All right. Thanks again. So glad you're both all right. Thank you. And we'll let you, like I said, get home to your family. But what a story that they have to tell, and really impressive, guys. They talk about the mood in that room and how everybody was doing what they were supposed to do, waiting patiently, even as it took hours for police to clear enough buildings on the UNLV campus to get to Brett and Jay and let them go. And just what you guys were talking about right before I started here, that new development, that there's reason for hopes and prayers to be ramped up even more right now, because now we understand that one of the victims is fighting for life as we speak. And so let's all be hoping that we get good news from the hospital as they update that condition into the evening.
Jim, I'm not sure if they're still with you, but we've been hearing from a number of students, several of them who say, one of them, our very own Dominic, who say they'll never be the same, and they don't want to go back to campus. I'm curious, when you have professional journalists who have, like you said, and like Brett said, they've been on the other side of this, how do they see their jobs going forward, having to cover tragedy day after day? I mean, a lot of times when we meet people in the field, it's on the worst day of their lives, and now they're at the center of that.
Yeah, let me ask, just when you thought we were going to let you go, Latoya's asking, we have heard some other students who say they were going to be very uneasy about coming back to this campus anytime soon, if at all. Did you hear students talking about that where you were?
I personally didn't. What I kept hearing over and over again from different students, just overhearing conversations, is, you never think it's going to happen until it happens to you. And I'm sure that's how a lot felt, even though, we know UNLV has so many people from Las Vegas. So I'm sure many people here today were here when 2017 shooting happened. So I don't know. It's hard to say what the students are thinking. But yeah, so many I was with today are supposed to graduate in 2 weeks. So I'm not sure how that's going to play forward for them.
Right. All right. Thank you again. And I can tell you guys, every once in a while we're hearing on the campus PA system the order, if you were sheltering in place, to remain sheltering in place. We haven't heard that for probably 20, 30 minutes now. So maybe police are getting close to the end of clearing the buildings and letting people go. And we're just glad that our members of our News 3 family were among those that made it out here.
Jay Aguilar and reporter Brett Forrest there. I'm grateful that they can go home to their families.
No doubt.
And express that gratitude for, being safe, but what an ordeal, no doubt. Another perspective now from Hunter Kane. This is a father who was at UNLV with his son. Hunter, let's start off with you and your son. How are you both doing?
We are both doing better. Let me say it that way. My son was extremely scared of the situation, of course, as you would be able to imagine. Going through it all. Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm also a military veteran, so the military kind of prepares us a little bit for these type of situations, but never in a civilian situation. So I think it's going to hit me probably a little bit later this evening.
Is your son with you, Hunter? I'm curious to know if we can speak with him and what he saw and what he felt when he got the notification on his phone when he was on campus today.
He is, absolutely. Let me see if I can grab him over here just for a second.
Hunter, while you're doing that, you mentioned that you have military background, but I would imagine that even with your training, it's something different when your child is there right in the danger with you. Can you speak to that?
Yes, and that's actually the difference. So I think one of the bigger differences, they teach you, brother to your left, brother to your right, how to be able to turn around and defend yourselves and each other. But when it's your son, all of a sudden you kind of go into Papa Bear mode. And while he was texting me, hey, Dad,
what's the plan?
What's the plan?
Yeah.
What are we going to do? All these different things. And in my opinion, I'm literally standing by the door waiting for someone to possibly breach. And to defend my son, but at the same time,
and he told me to run.
Yeah. My son's like, Dad,
I'm not gonna just let you die. Like, you better not die. As a matter of fact, if you die, I will take that person out in the process. Like, it was scary. It was so scary. I thought genuinely both of our lives were in such deep danger that I hit a point in my brain that I didn't think I could hit anymore.
Yeah.
Like a level of fear and anxiety and just readiness. I didn't even know I could be that ready, ever.
And just in case you didn't figure out, this is my son, James Kane, who's joining us now also.
Well, we appreciate you guys joining us. So you guys, it sounds like, had a plan. I mean, I don't think you knew where the shooter was exactly on campus. You just knew that there was an active shooter. But you had a plan in place in case you were confronted by this person with a gun. What was that plan?
Absolutely. So, I mean, as scary as this might sound, one of the first things I told James is literally go in the middle of everybody else. I kind of wanted to make sure he was safe, first and foremost. And then there's another gentleman who was there from Rise, Nevada, who literally him and I were standing by the door with things in hand in case somebody came through the door. We are kind of worried that somebody would have breached. And I'll be honest, at first we weren't as concerned because we heard it was in a different building.
And then
we heard it was in BEH, which we know is next to us. And then he said, hey, the shooter is in the student union. And we're like, hey, we're in the student union.
Wow.
And then when the lights went out and things like that, we turned off the lights, and then we started hearing
banging.
We heard it banging. We heard the emergency doors, the alarms, all these different things going out. That's when everyone's like, okay, this is real. This is
we heard doors being breached by Metro, but we didn't know it was Metro confirmed. We just heard doors being opened above and below it next to us, and we were all very, very scared, waiting by the emergency door.
And then I think, one thing that made me also fairly worried was once, everything was safe and we came out, there were about 80 people in our group, and everyone had to go by, the unfortunate, suspect who was killed, uncovered. And, so I'm like, what additional trauma is being utilized by everyone walking by this scene that just happened?
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna hug my kids a little bit
tighter.
Yeah.
100%. I'm gonna hug my brothers just a little bit tighter. I have to.
Yeah, and that's what I was just going to ask the both of you. What are those next steps now that you are in a place that's safe, there's relief? And maybe it's too soon to talk about this. We know that winter break is coming up. How are you even thinking about a potential return to campus?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. We're done with UNLV for the year.
The immediate response after we knew we were safe was just making sure we had all of our people and making sure everyone else that we were with was safe and okay. And, while people were crying and upset, that's to be expected, 100%. So we were just trying our best to help. We got a bunch of water. That was, we did what we could.
I think UNLV, I know we're in the middle of midterms right now, so it's, hey, I don't care about the midterms. We're done for now. If they want to do something online later on, great. But it's not a safe spot. In fact, we're taking Ubers home and things like that because our vehicles can't be picked up. Everything that's in there, of course, is being left, and we're not going to be able to get it till they told us or tomorrow's the earliest. Is what's going on. But we're glad we're safe. We've been hearing mixed reports on how many people in certain classrooms
injured or dead.
Yeah. And we're glad that we're just not among those statistics.
Did you see any of the aftermath? In other words, when you were let out of the room that you were in, give us a firsthand account of what you were able to witness. Did you see a heavy police presence? Did you see any victims? Did you see the suspect?
We were all escorted out in a line, and all we could really see was one of the suspects. He was clearly, if not dead, unconscious and cuffed.
He's clearly dead.
Yeah, he was very clearly dead, though. He was very injured, and you know, we had to walk right by it. And after that, it was it. We were clear of all danger. We didn't really see anything except for the aftermath of one of the shooters being taken down.
And I would say, like, you know, the police in this situation, you know,
they handle it very well.
I've always thought the Las Vegas police has done a great job.
Yeah.
And it's clear, do this, do that, go here, keep your hands up over here, go over there. And it was just very much, we have you, don't worry, you're safe. And it was just that feeling from the moment they came in, everybody was happy. And I think everybody broke down.
Yeah, everyone was able to take a deep breath and let their tears out and let their, you know, fear out, because they knew while we're walking down this hallway, we have 5, 6 police officers guarding us. We were safe. I agree 100%.
James and Hunter, you're saying one of the shooters, from what we're learning from law enforcement, they believe, at least what they've told us, is that there's one shooter. And sadly, we've learned that there are 3 victims who have passed away, and one person is in critical condition. Are you guys hearing something different at the scene?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
We're hearing very different things. We
heard that there's
12 victims.
That there was 12 victims.
An additional, like, 18 injured.
And then we've heard that there were, like, 3 shooters altogether, 1 dead, 1 detained, and 1 still on the loose. But then again, we're always getting secondhand
information.
That's what I wanted to ask you guys. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I want to know where you heard that from. Is this word of mouth, student to student? You're not hearing this from any official source, right?
It was the UNLV website for
UNLV
for the casualty count. Yes,
and then that same thing, CSN. We had, and then one of the people in our group also had some close friends that worked at the nearby hospital, who said that they brought in at least 8 people to that specific hospital from the UNLV thing. So we just kept hearing information, but unsure what was true.
Yeah.
Which made it more nerve-wracking.
Right. We want to thank you all for this harrowing tale that we hate that you had to tell. Again, that's Hunter Kane and his son. Hunter has experience in the military trained, and you can see that from what he was saying is that military training kicked in, but also he became Papa Bear as well, trying to protect his son James, who's a student there, who says that he's done with UNLV as far as he's concerned right now, as they were trying to prepare for their finals. Again, you were hearing them say that they've heard a number of things come out about what exactly is the situation here with the victims and how many shooters. But police right now are at least telling us that there are 3 dead, 3 victims, and 1 person fighting for their life right now. And then the shooter, we're told, is deceased. Are you learning more?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I just want to be very careful with the information we're providing. I mean, it's one thing to hear rumor and innuendo. We want to try to stick to facts, obviously, here. So we're going to be very measured and careful when we talk about these victims.
Well, we are getting some information from NBC Investigations. Obviously, this now a national story, and NBC is telling us that 3 law enforcement sources familiar with the investigation at NBC News say that the suspect in the shooting is a male in his 60s. No immediate information on the suspect's identity or motive or why the individual chose UNLV to carry out the shooting, which has now taken 3 lives and has sent 1 more to a hospital in critical condition. Again,
that's from NBC News.
From NBC News.
Okay.
All right, so yeah, we have to be correct in this and to, again, show deference to the seriousness of the situation. Let's go back to Tiffany Lane. She is there at the Reunification Center, the convention center, where a busload of folks from UNLV were taken so they could reunite with their loved ones. What have you learned since we last saw you?
Yes, Latoya, so that bus was dropped off around the corner, and we've seen students coming from either side reuniting. We saw a mother in tears as she embraced her son. He said it's just been a really rough day, and that he had been communicating throughout the day through his phone with his mother, just telling her it's going to be okay, I'm okay. And then we saw that moment that they were able to give each other a big hug, and seeing the mom so happy knowing that her son is safe. Unfortunately, we know for some families that isn't the case today. We've also spoken with some students. They can't really put into words what today has felt like. A lot of them have never been in a situation like this before, and some came over on that bus and they were saying that they were so quick to get out there. They left their vehicles on campus, just got on the bus, ended up here. One student we spoke with said she was waiting for her dad to pick her up here, since her family does live here in Las Vegas. But the feeling that we're getting from everyone right now is they just want to be home safe and to just get past the trauma they felt today from everything that has gone on. Of course, there is relief that they're getting home safely, but there's still the feeling and shock from everything that's gone on that is still so fresh for all of them. So we're still seeing right now there are a lot of people exiting, but a lot of that is from the convention that is going on. And then we're seeing some of these families trickling over to this part of the convention center, meeting up with each other. One other thing I want to bring up is that already so many people in the community are coming together. So many messages that I received as well from different community members working on different ways to come together. I did speak with Broadway in the Hood. Now they're working with several other organizations here in the community. They have an event tonight that's happening. Let me take a look at it here. From 7 to 8:30 at the historic 5th Street School. I was told that we will have a crew there, but everyone is coming together in support of UNLV staff and students who have been impacted by this tragedy today, coming together to come up with solutions, but more importantly right now just to be here for each other following everything that has occurred today. So we're going to stay out here and monitor, and we have crews all around town just trying to see where do we go from here, but still a lot of fear from what happened today.
Understandably so. All right, Tiffany, thank you. Now, we did have a chance to also speak with a student over at the Las Vegas Convention Center who was at the lead library right there on campus when he learned that the active shooter was on campus.
We were actually at the library, and then on all the monitors it just had an alert that just to run, hide, or fight because there's an active shooter by the BH building. So we evacuated, and we saw cops come out, and from there we heard gunshots. So we ran towards the intersection, like towards the where University Center meets Thomas and Mack. So we're there, and then we walked all the way to Gangnam Asian Korean barbecue. That's a shelter in place there. And then from my friends said that because of all the road closures, we went all the way here to meet his dad.
Convention Center, and we're also getting a statement from the Raiders as well.
Yeah, and here's what it says. It says the Las Vegas Raiders are deeply saddened by the tragic events that occurred at UNLV today. Our hearts go out to the victims, their families, and all those affected by this senseless act of violence. We are committed to helping our friends at UNLV and also the greater Las Vegas community heal, and are grateful for the efforts of our first responders. And of course, we know our first responders also dealing with tragedy of their own after they lost two of their own last Thursday, when a suspected drunk driver hit and killed two troopers. And so it's really been a tough time.
Are you kidding me?
For Las Vegas.
The first funeral for the first troopers Friday, and the next one's on Monday.
There was supposed to be a fundraising event, a candlelight memorial for the Injured Police Officers Fund, an organization that raises money for families impacted by tragedy. They postponed or just put off tonight's event after the shooting. But yes, a lot of hurt. And Dana, you're learning some more information from the national news.
You know what, I want to talk about this. Obviously, it's getting national attention tonight. It's probably the lead story in all of the newscasts tonight, the national newscasts around the country. But this from USA Today, and I'll quote it. It says, a shooter at UNLV sprayed bullets into crowds at two campus buildings during a lunchtime assault that killed at least 3 and caused panic among students who ran in horror from end of semester classes before the shooter died at the scene. They say that the shooter entered the Beam Hall first, and then 20 minutes later entered the Student Union building. So we have two different locations. We know that 3 victims are dead. One's in critical condition. We don't know where they were shot, which building they were shot, but we do know that the suspect in this case is also dead.
And NBC News reporting their investigators saying that the suspect, identified only as a man in his 60s,
Right.
no exact identity or motive in this case very early on in this investigation.
Yeah, and of course, when anything like this happens, the first thing you think after you want to know if everyone is safe is
Right.
why.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be a long road. Of course, our crews continue to get reaction from people at the scene there, living out their worst nightmares. Let's go ahead and listen to another person who was there at the campus at the time.
I was in the Central Desert Complex, which is about 5 minutes away from the Student Union. So then we just heard loud pops, and then we hear on the radar, the television, on the telephone, we hear, I'm in there with the director of student conduct. So he's just telling us, like, just stay in there, and then, like, don't go out. And then I go outside to get over here where I'm at right now. This is like a 10-minute walk. And then there's police officers carrying assault rifles, like telling me, keep your hands in the air, walk on the sidewalk. You know, it was very distressful. Like, everybody, we're just sitting out here, we don't know what's about to happen next. Like, but, you know, as a student, you know, when you come to school, you know, I'm from a different state. Like, you would never think that, you know, you're coming somewhere else and that it's going to be unsafe. You know, I just want to go to school and have a good time. I don't think I should be worrying about whether I'm going to die or not.
I immediately felt sick. I was trying to compose myself because I'm trying to be good for her. But just immediately we were trying to talk to her and find out what was going on, and I said I can't. I got to get in the car and get down there at least. You know, when she does and is evacuated, I'm at least here to take her home. So.
And at least you're on FaceTime with her and her father as well. She's in her dorm saying that she is okay, safe, but now it's just kind of a waiting.
It is. At this point, it's like like I said, you're trying to keep it together, and when you find out that most likely they're safe, it's just a flood of emotions because you really don't know. You're hearing from this and that and this, and then you're seeing all these cop cars, and you just don't know. It's
just overwhelming.
A mother's anguish.
You can only imagine what she was thinking, and hopefully her child is okay. Let's go ahead and check in now with Drake York. He's joining us on phone. You're a witness there. You saw the aftermath of the UNLV shooting. Can you tell us where you were when danger was near?
Yeah, I was in the Student Union building up in the meeting centers, and one of my friends said that they got a text that there was a shooting, and I mean, afterwards we all kind of hunkered down, and it was scary.
So you were in a room, right, with other students at the time? I mean, what kind of action did you take when you got the notification on your phone that there was an active shooter on campus?
Well, there were already people who were kind of figuring out what was going on, so we all kind of like hunkered down in the corner, you know, like the whole duck and cover thing that we were taught in school. And it was scary, but a lot of us just started texting family and friends and, you know, standing by exit doors and making sure that all the doors were locked. And checking and making sure that what was going on was updated to everybody. A lot of people were kind of, you know, talking to each other and making sure that information was spread around the entire room, which was a big relief, right? So, I think that as a whole, we handled it well.
And Drake, I'm happy to hear about that. Where are you now? How did you make it out to safety?
Well, we all waited for at least 20 minutes, and we were escorted out by Metro to a parking lot across the street from UNLV on Maryland, where, like the Chiba Hut? It was right there. And my friend Derek Washington, thankfully, he picked me and a couple of people who were at the campus with us up, and we met up with another friend of ours, and we just discussed what was going on. Like, what else can you do in a situation like that except confide in friends?
So the shooting started at Beam Hall and continued in the Student Union. That's where you were. Did you hear any shots fired? And then when you were finally released from your location, were you able to witness anything, any victims on the ground, police presence? Did you see the suspect?
I actually saw the suspect. He was cuffed and shot. I mean, there were at least 4 shots in his back, but he was on the floor. I mean, it's like watching a candle go out, right? It's pretty terrible. But, I mean, yeah, I saw Metro. They escorted us out, of course, and made sure that we were okay. But a lot of it is just upsetting. I mean, like people just starting their lives, right? Going to school. A lot of us are kids still. I mean, we're legally not kids, but we're kids, right? And somebody just decides that they're going to snuff us out. Like, that is just evil. It's terrible.
It's a nightmare. And Drake, we're so glad you're okay, but I'm sure you're still trying to process. How are you doing right now?
I'm okay. I mean, I have friends who had friends in the building that first had the shooting starting anyways. And I mean, like, I've been trying to text them and figure out what's going on with their friends, but they haven't texted me back. And I mean, I'm just grateful that me and my friends and other students that I know and family and stuff made it out okay. But it's terrifying. I mean, I'm angry more than anything else that somebody would even decide that they wanted to, kill people, right? Like, it's different when you hear about it and when it happens. Because, like, as a group of people, right, as a society, we have decided that this stuff happens, and it's sad, and it's horrible, but it happens all the time. And reading about it on the news and seeing, like, tweets and Instagram posts about it is different than experiencing it in person. There's something it's terrifying. I mean, texting my mom and telling her that I love her and that I'm in an active shooter situation it's heartbreaking. I mean, it's scary. And I mean, I don't even know if my friend's coworker and his friends made out okay. And I don't know the whole situation because it hasn't been communicated, but it's just scary.
So we've talked to other students that were there on campus today, and we've asked them if they're willing to go back to campus. And I'll ask you the same question. Where do you stand on that? Are you willing to go back to UNLV in the future?
I mean, yeah, I have my stuff there. And I mean, also, like, I have friends there. And I know that further on, we're going to be, I mean, UNLV as a campus is most likely going to be more careful with, like, protecting other students and whatnot. But until I get information on what's going on with security and what's going on with catching people, I don't want to go back on campus. I mean, yeah, I don't want to like mince my words here, but it's a little traumatic. I mean, hearing bangs and like a bunch of people banging on doors and shouting and stuff is not fun.
Drake, we know a lot of you are from Las Vegas and have family here. Is that your situation, or are you one of our out-of-state students? I just want to make sure you have a support system.
Well, I mean, I live here. I just moved here. I have friends and family here. I actually go to GCU online. And I was here helping for an event for, like, organizing students and making sure they're okay. And, like, that we advocate for our rights as students. But, I'm okay. I have family. I have friends here. I just hope that there's other people who are in a similar situation. And I want to make a difference. I want to help. I'm not going to just let this be something that happened and that, wow, that sucked, it's over with, I'm going to move on with my life. No, I'm going to see if I can make a difference somehow.
Drake, thank you so much for saying that. Thank you for sharing your resilience, and we wish you all the best. Again, let's go bring up this community event that is happening tonight. The historic 5th Street School. We will have a crew there as well. It goes from 7 to 8:30 tonight. There'll be music. There'll be grief counselors. This is a community event, and they want people to come to just be together, to comfort each other. And the word resiliency, the Vegas Strong Resiliency Center, that was born out of 1 October. Yeah. And already we're hearing from people like Drake saying, how can I be there for my community? Yeah, as someone who experienced it.
And right. I think that's the encouraging part of it, is when you hear them, say, especially Drake saying, I'm not going to let this just be the end of it. I want to make a difference. And certainly that's not where everyone is right now, nope. Because they're still trying to process and they're still trying to make sense of, quite frankly, what you cannot make sense of. But the latest information that we've learned tonight is that we have someone, a male in his 60s, is to be the believed shooter here, who is now deceased. And Some of the people we talked to today say they actually saw that
Right.
person lying
Well,
on the ground. They will not be the same.
Little breaking news from Drake there too. We didn't know if the shooter took his own life or if he was shot by police, but he said that he noticed 4 gunshot wounds to the back of the shooter, which means that he was actively engaged by either university police or Metro Police or
someone
both.
else,
or someone else with a
possibly.
gun, exactly.
Yeah.
Metro Police will be also having another update at 5 o'clock, another press briefing, so perhaps we'll learn more information from that. Sheriff McMahill will be addressing the media and, of course, the rest of us here in Southern Nevada.
Yeah, we're also hearing from a number of entities. We heard from the Raiders earlier. Now we're hearing from the champion Vegas Golden Knights saying, quote, "Our hearts are with the victims of today's tragic events and with our entire community. We pledge our support for all those affected and are eternally grateful to the first responders who serve our valley." And of course, we know that they have a special relationship with this community because it was shortly after we had our darkest night in this community, 1 October, that mass shooting that killed ultimately 60 people. The Vegas Golden Knights, Vegas born, and they were new to our area, and they rallied and came to support. And I think that's one reason why you find so many people who are suddenly hockey fans here in the desert, because they did everything they could to try to help this community get back on its feet.
I think it was the first home game in the history of the Vegas Golden Knights. Came 9 days on October the 10th, right after 1 October, 9 days later. And Derek England, the defenseman who met his wife in Las Vegas when he was playing minor league hockey. His children were born in this community. He still works for the Golden Knights. And
he gave a moving speech.
Yeah,
It really
it gets me emotional now.
It gets me choked up just thinking about how he was speaking about his daughter being born here, and that he had so much faith that this community would come together and heal. And we're starting to hear about that now. Again, people wanting to come together just to be together and to show that we are not alone.
Yeah.
He ended the speech with, "We are Vegas strong."
And that's something that we're going to continue to say here as we await to hear more about this horrific ordeal playing out at UNLV today. Sadly, 3 people dead because of this. 1 person still fighting for their life this hour. We're going to hear from police at any moment here. At 5 o'clock is when we're expecting that. And right now you're looking at Metro headquarters as we await to hear word from them to find out what exactly happened. Our Denise Roche is actually there as well. Denise, if you can hear us, hopefully she cannot hear us, so we'll check it back in with her later. But again, we're waiting for them to open the doors there and tell us what they've learned at this hour. But as we talk about VGK ingratiating themselves with the community, I can't help but to think back on that original night. I had only been here for 10 months. So imagine getting that call and quickly started to learn what Las Vegas is. And I think that the people who are watching, I've heard that at some points we've been simulcasting with national news. They've been following our coverage tonight. They're learning more about this community, this strong community, this great community that none of us are from, but yet we've all made it home. And we've been here for years now. And it's because we have met such amazing people here who are strong and who ultimately come together when tragedy strikes.
We're seeing that once again.
One of them is Jim Snyder. He joins us live from campus of UNLV, and you moved to this town in 1991. Your son was born in Las Vegas, and so things that happen today on the campus of UNLV probably hit someone like you a little bit differently than maybe somebody new to our community.
No doubt, Dana. Yeah, Riley was born at Sunrise Hospital just up the road, where, as we've been hearing, the victims from today's incident have been treated. And I can tell you, as far as what's going on right now, you see these motorcycle officers. Some of the police presence beginning to peel off here. We just had another 6 or 8 motorcycle officers come by this way, and we see a couple of the vehicles every now and again going through the lines and starting to peel off. But you can see from the amount of flashing lights still behind me. This is Maryland Parkway. We're right at the corner of University Avenue, so right in front of UNLV here, and this is still a very active scene, as you can see, which means an active investigation as they're going through now the different points of violence and where the suspect was, where he fired, and where eventually that person died. So that's what's going on. I did talk to one guy over here on the corner. He had been waiting for his fiance for all of these hours, and she just was cleared from a building and they were reunited. He didn't want to talk on camera. He said he had some privacy issues with that. And then there is another woman, I don't know, Mark, if you want to over here on the phone. She also didn't want to talk on camera. She's waiting for her daughter. She's in contact with her daughter. She knows her daughter's okay, but she's waiting to get her arms around her daughter, as so many parents and families have been doing throughout this afternoon. And now we head into the evening hours as dusk settles here over Maryland Parkway. But we'll keep watching the scene here and let you know if we get any new information, and we'll just stay in touch.
All right, Jim, thank you. That mother there on the phone, your heart just goes out to her. Again, she sounds like she's been in contact with her family. Our Tiffany Lane is over at the Family Reunification Center over at the Convention Center. Tiffany, let's check in with you. What are you seeing from where you are?
Yeah, so we've been just continuously seeing more families arriving here at the Reunification Center now. I just spoke with the father who says he spoke with his daughter and she should be arriving here from Thomas and Mack Center shortly. So it sounds like there will be more buses coming. We saw a bus come about, I want to say, half an hour ago, and we've been seeing those families reunite with each other. A lot of hugs, tears, families just relieved to be able to see their children that they had been texting with and communicating with throughout the day, but just being able to physically be in each other's presence gives them that sense of relief. A lot of parents who I've spoken with who are waiting for their children to arrive say that there's a process that the students have to go through once they get here at the convention center. There's also those resources we shared once they get here, mental health resources, social service resources, a lot of different things that they have once they get here. But it's just right now just the waiting game. A lot of people just wanting to go home to just really process everything that happened at UNLV today. But seeing those families be able to embrace is very touching, considering everything that has happened, and no idea on when those buses will be arriving. But again, it sounds like from what the parents are telling me, there are still several buses. We know one will be coming from Thomas and Mack, and we'll make sure to keep you updated.
Okay, Tiffany, thank you. It's going to be a very, very long night for investigators on the campus of UNLV. We believe that the shooter's body may still be inside the student union. We heard from a student and others that were walking out of the student union shortly after the shooting, and they saw the suspect's body lying on the ground. They handcuffed him, as is protocol. And one said that they noticed 4 bullet shots, bullet wounds to the back of the shooter's body there as well. Is that Tiffany?
Yeah, that's Tiffany that we're hearing in the background as she's trying to talk to folks. But we're also waiting on word to find out more of the specifics of what happened here and how they were able, if it was in fact police, because we don't know yet who actually took down the suspect. Right. We're told that we'll hear something here in less than 30 minutes from Metro. Let's go ahead and check in with Denise Ross. She is there waiting for them to open the doors. Denise, have you been able to learn anything since we last saw you when you were actually at the scene?
Yeah, no, we do know that there will be a news conference right here at Metro headquarters at 5 o'clock. We're just waiting for the doors to open right around 4:40 or so. As you've been reporting, Metro has already confirmed 3 fatalities, 3 victims killed in this shooting, 1 victim in critical condition. But the department will be releasing much more. As for a motive, that could take weeks to determine, but we should be hearing much more in the next couple of minutes, and we'll be bringing it to you live right here from HQ.
All right, Denise, thank you so much for that. We understand that the ATF and FBI are also on scene helping with the investigation.
All right, we have now Laura Perkins on the phone. She's a regent with the Nevada System of Higher Education. You were on campus at UNLV when you were told to shelter in place. Can you just walk us back to that moment when you first realized that there was danger at UNLV? Laura, can you hear us? All right, we're having some issues with Laura right now. We'll try to do our best to get her back on the phone for you. But Laura, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Yes, you were on campus when you were told to shelter in place. Can you kind of take us back to that moment when you realized that something was wrong?
Well, I was on my way to campus, and I was driving just approaching the student union in conjunction with the RISE event happening today. I was one of the speakers, or supposed to be one of the speakers. It was surreal. There was sirens coming from every direction. Thank God for our first responders. Everybody responded so quickly. I really appreciate that about this, to make sure the students were safe. I just remember sitting in my car, and because everyone was blocked off, I would have had to walk quite a distance to get to the student union. I heard the bells go, and it was surreal. They said, if you can evacuate, evacuate now. We're going to evacuate people as quickly as possible and to remain safe and stay out of the area. That time I was sitting in my car, and I could see the officers in full gear running with, the SWAT teams running and getting things done and taking care of business and blocking off the roads. And so it was just surreal.
Laura, let me understand this. So they were telling you to run away from the active shooter situation, not to shelter in place. Is that correct?
I was going. They over the after they said if you can evacuate easily, then evacuate. But for the most part, I was not in the building. I was outside the building and in like the closest parking lot to the TAM Center.
But Laura, this obviously hits so close to home. You are a university regent. You've been with the university now since 2018. We're hearing from a lot of students who are understandably so shaken. And first, one of the things that we're hearing from a lot of them is that they just do not feel safe and returning to the campus. They're still so uncertain about that. What is your message to students who are going back home to their families and wondering about their future there at the university?
I would suggest that they seek counseling, which is available through UNLV, and also tonight, if they would like to come to the 5th Street School from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. to be around other individuals who have experienced the same thing, to just talk about it and grieve, because this is it's a tragedy, and so give people a chance to grieve. And I think, what can I say, rebel strong.
Rebel strong.
Rebel strong. Yeah.
Thank you, Laura Perkins, there for giving us your account of what happened through your eyes. Let's go ahead back to our Jim Snyder. He's been live at the scene now for a while, and you have someone that you just met that you want us to hear from.
Yeah, we've seen people trickle out, kind of one by one, and I approach every person to find out if they'd like to talk on television. Many of them haven't, but Jenny here has graciously agreed to be with us. Jenny, thank you.
Thank you.
Glad you're okay. Tell us how this started for you. You first got the alert, and you're a PhD student.
Yes,
You were in a building that was, you thought, pretty far away from where.
Yes. It's a little bit far. I think like 15 minutes walk from that building, so I just stayed still. I didn't go outside.
And then you got more updates, and there was more information coming in.
Yes,
and is that when you got more worried?
Yeah, a little bit worried because it showed an active shooter and another additional shooter in the student union. So I feel a little bit scared at that time. But still, I just stay in the building because our building, we need to get the access and can get inside. So I feel much better.
I'm hoping you've heard there's a lot of confusion usually at the beginning stages. Now it looks like there was just the one shooter who had moved to 2 different locations.
Yeah. No, I think based on the email, I think there should be 2 or something like that because it said it's an additional shooter.
Right.
So I
think at one point they were looking to make sure.
But only one person?
Yes, only one person, and that person is deceased. Yes. So that's what the police are telling us officially now.
Okay.
Tell us, what was it like? Were you with a group of people when you were waiting and hiding?
No, we just stay in our building. I think it's a little bit safer.
Yeah, how many people?
In our office, maybe 5 people.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 persons.
And everyone stay calm
everyone stay calm. I think stay calm because we just thinking it's still under control. We don't need to worry about it because everyone, just like me, I still go to the lab and do some experiment. I just go back and forth from lab and the office.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And now going forward, you're supposed to be back here again working in the lab. Will you come back to the campus? Will you have fears about coming back?
And if I receive the email, it tells us it's already clear, I will go back tomorrow. I won't feel scared. But today, I may not go back.
I understand.
Yeah.
And you're just feet from home here. You're
Yeah,
walking
yeah.
home. All right, Jenny, thank you very much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. So glad you're okay. So that's the view from somebody who was inside all afternoon waiting for police to finally come and clear the building that she was in. Reporting live here in front of the UNLV campus, I'm Jim Snyder. Back to you guys.
Yeah, Jim, thank you for that. So even Jim there clarifying
Right.
that confusion. She thought that there may have been 2 shooters, learning just now,
Right.
5 hours after the
Exactly.
first alerts went out, that there was only 1.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because it was one shooter at 2 locations. They started at the business building, Beam Hall first. This man in his 60s shot, was an active shooter at that location, and then walked very close to the next building, which is the Student Union, and then was shooting there as well. And that's where the shooter was taken down, was inside the Student Union.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're clearing that up. And again, you know, when you're out there and in the thick of things, you don't always get the information.
The fog of war, they call it.
Exactly. Let's go ahead and turn now to our Tiffany Lane. Tiffany is still at the Reunification Center at the Convention Center here in Las Vegas, where they have families reuniting. And it looks like you've met one of those students who perhaps just arrived.
Yeah, so I'm actually here with Andre Casillas. So Andre, thank you so much for speaking with us. You're actually waiting for your brother Carlos to arrive. Talk about just your communication with him throughout today.
So initially he had called us earlier in the morning, right before everything had started. He was working out in one of the gyms on campus, and there was a big glass window, and he had noticed how there was a couple students running across. And, you know, he was a little frantic, and so he was like, hold on, give me a second. And he had said those 2 women had come in and basically said how there was active shooters. And, you know, he was nervous, just as me and my mom were on a group FaceTime call. Actually, my mom was at work and I was at home. And, you know, it was just very frantic. He didn't really know what to do. And, you know, he was just calling us, trying to stay in contact. But in these situations, there's just so much chaos going on. And, you know, he's trying to send us texts. And it's like everything wasn't going in his way. You know, his phone had died. And so me and my mom are just basically hoping and, you know, praying that everything's going to be okay. And we knew that he had a MacBook on him as well. So he's trying to message us off the MacBook. The MacBook dies, and it's just a bunch of different things. And we're basically just hoping for the best, hoping that, you know, we hear things, and we're trying to check news stations and everything, and we're not getting any reports. There's nothing coming out. So I'm over here scrolling through every social media imaginable with every hashtag of UNLV, anything I could find. And I'm just nervous, and I'm hoping for the best. And we're starting to see that there's, you know, people hurt, and there's casualties, and I'm not hearing my brother's messages, and so it's really starting to be like worrying, you know. And luckily he was able to meet up with a friend who had a portable charger, and he was able to text us, and he just let us know, you know, kind of the process of what was going on, how there's people coming into the gym, like law enforcement, and kind of guiding them to Thomas and Mack, and just going from Thomas Mack and going to meet here, basically get a shuttle to meet here.
Just that moment that you were able to finally hear from him, is there a sense of relief that came over you knowing that unfortunately there were some families that did lose their loved ones tonight?
I mean, it's honestly a bittersweet feeling. It's a terrible feeling, know that we're so close to the holidays, and that a lot of students aren't going to be able to go home and celebrate that with their loved ones. And it was a great feeling to hear from him, but it was also still that worry and anxiety that was still like, I'm not okay until I see him. And I've never ran out of my house so fast to just drive here, and, you know, I'm on the phone with him just making sure that he's here. And it was a great feeling to know that he's okay, but it's also not, it's just, it hurts me deep down to know that there are families that aren't going to be able to have the kind of comfort that I'm going to have to see him right now. And so you told me that his bus just left UNLV a few minutes ago. What do you think is going to be that moment that you finally see each other? It's just overwhelming. You know, he's honestly, I don't really have a father figure, and he's been my father figure growing up, and he's the one I've looked up to my whole life. And truthfully, the reason why I even applied to UNLV in the first place, you know, because he's that person I look forward to seeing every day, and he's the person that I'm always going above and beyond to, you know, make proud at the end of the day. So almost, you know, sorry. So almost losing someone like that, it's just a lot, you know, and I don't know where I'd be without him. So just not being able to have him here with me every day would do a lot to me. So it just means a lot to see him again, you know.
Well, Andre, we're so glad that Carlos is okay, and I want to give you the time to be able to go and embrace him when he gets here. But thank you so much for speaking with us. I'm so glad he's okay. And I know that you had a very heartfelt message for those families that did lose their loved ones tonight. So for now, I'm going to send it back to you guys.
Thank you.
We've seen a lot of tears today, haven't we?
And it's so heartbreaking, and it just goes to show you, I mean, when we hear about these tragedies, you have to put them in perspective. These aren't just numbers. This isn't just an event that happened that you're watching play out. This is literally affecting lives. This is literally tearing apart people's futures, communities that are rocked and shaken forever. And so I thought what he said, it really brings it home that these are real people, and there are real consequences to the things that are happening. And thankfully, he will be able to hug his brother tonight. But there's a couple of families out there that won't get to do the same.
He called this bittersweet.
Right. Well, that's the point here, is that his brother survived. Right. And we've seen tears from people who have survived this. That's how traumatic it was. They made it through to the other side. But we have 4 victims that we know of right now. 3 were shot dead today by that active shooter, and 1 in critical condition. Those 4 families are going to look at this day quite differently than even those people who survived the day.
Right. All right, so let's hear now from the Las Vegas Aces. They're issuing a statement tonight saying that they are heartbroken over today's horrific shooting at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Our thoughts are with all those impacted by the senseless act of violence, and our thanks go out to those first responders and medical professionals whose actions this afternoon undoubtedly saved lives. As the healing process begins for UNLV students, faculty, and staff, the ACEs stand committed to assist in any way we can.
Well, let's make sure we update everybody too. Metro is scheduled to hold a news conference here at 5 o'clock, so that's coming up in about 13 minutes from now, and we're expected to get a lot of fresh information from that news conference. Our Denise Raj is at Metro headquarters, and she will be taking us inside that room live as they give us the latest information on this.
Yeah, we're also getting some more reaction as well from those at the Las Vegas Convention Center, where Tiffany Lane is, from people who were bussed over from the campus of UNLV. In fact, we talked to one woman who is an employee, also a UNLV student as well. She told us about the moments that she first learned about this active shooter situation on campus. Let's go ahead and listen into that.
We got one alert that there was shooting at BEH, and then we got another alert that there was at the student union. Those were just the university police alerts that got sent to us. And then we were just told to just shelter in place until they gave us like the all clear, the go ahead.
Taking there in her voice, understandably.
Time and time again.
You know, just again, an overwhelming night, an anxious night. We are just a few minutes away now from this Metro Police Conference. Now we are approaching the 6th hour. This happened at 11:45. Students were there approaching their finals. They get word that there's an active shooter there on campus. People locked down for hours and now starting to finally reunite with their loved ones over there at the convention center.
Yeah, what a harrowing tale that so many people have told us. We've heard from people who weren't near the danger, still impacted by this, of course. And then we've also heard from folks who were in those buildings where those shots rang out. And we're now learning from police, they told us as we wait for that news conference to begin, that the suspect involved here is a 60-year-old male who is deceased. Sadly, 3 victims have succumbed to their injuries tonight. And we know that troubling days are ahead for their family members as they learn about that loss. There's still one person that we're holding out hope for who will survive this, that we've learned that is in critical condition at the hospital. And so a lot of people pulling for that person, a lot of people just holding their breath tonight, hoping that people will be able to come together to heal. We do know that something is going to be taking place tonight at the 5th Street Historic School there. So we were talking earlier to you, Marie, as one who often talks to the healing community about survivors, that this is a long road ahead. You were talking earlier about the help that is available. Can you speak more to that about what's next for these folks and the help that is, in fact, ready for them?
Well, let me go ahead and quote Dr. Sheldon Jacobs, who's the board president of the National Alliance of Mental Illness for Southern Nevada. Just recently, Nevada was added to the board, which speaks to just how mental health has been put up in the forefront here when it comes to our state. And Dr. Jacobs says the tragedy that occurred on the UNLV campus is beyond imaginable, and it has sent shockwaves throughout the Las Vegas community and beyond. And today, tomorrow, next week, and for a long time, many of us will struggle with what has happened in our community. But you are not alone. And he says that NAMI is here to help. So NAMI, they have the Nevada Warm Line where you can call or text. We also have 988, that number there on your screen. That is the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. You can also call and text for support. And going back to what you were saying earlier, Latoya, there is an event tonight at the historic 5th Street School. There will be grief counselors there, community leaders all gathering from 7 to 8:30 p.m. and just offering a space, a place to be together and to talk and to be with one each other. Again, Vegas strong. It's the community that's coming together in many ways as we speak.
So on the left side of your screen there, you just saw Metro headquarters. We're expecting that news conference to start at 5 o'clock. So we're about 9 minutes, 30 seconds away if they start on time. And on the right side, you're looking at some of the images from earlier today around the campus of UNLV. There are a lot of questions that we don't have answers to yet, and we're hoping to get those at 5 o'clock. I don't know that every question will be answered, but we want to know the identity of the shooter, a man in his 60s. We would also like to know a motive, and maybe we won't get that tonight or ever. In the 1 October shooting, we still never received a motive there. We're also wondering about the victims, of course. That's where our hearts are tonight. The 4 people who we believe it was just 4 who were shot, 3 killed, 1 in critical condition. I don't know if we're going to get those identities tonight either. So more details coming our way here at 5 o'clock tonight. We have a lot of questions. We'll find out if we get many answers tonight.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the suspect here that's now deceased, 60 years old, so we don't know their connection with the university. Of course, UNLV is an urban campus, and some consider it a commuter school, so he could very well be a student.
Exactly.
We just
or
don't
a staff
know.
member, or a teacher, or not associated with a college in any way. That's a great point. We want to know those answers too, don't we?
Right, and a lot of people want to know why, but as you mentioned, sometimes you never know why. So let's go ahead back to Jim Snyder, who is at the scene. Jim, I know you've been meeting a number of people telling you horrific tales of what they were going through just hours ago, around after 11:45 when terror hit that campus. What have you learned since we last saw you?
Well, it's just absolutely stunned. Every person, there's kind of, I walk up to people and say, were you just released from the campus? And I don't even have to ask the question because you can kind of read it all over their faces. There's that sort of 1,000-yard stare that people talk about when they've been through something traumatic like this. And it's just really interesting to me how a spot in town, I mean, I'm at University of Maryland Parkway. I cut through here all the time. It's fun to drive down Maryland and see the UNLV students, coming and going, and how it all changes. Now it's just one big crime scene investigation scene and a parking lot for police vehicles from agencies with the state, with the county, with UNLV, the university system, and of course Metro as well. So there's not a whole lot of activity going on down here right now. I think a police car is getting ready to leave right here. He's backing out. We're seeing, I would say, maybe 20% of the vehicles have kind of peeled off and left, and motorcycles here, but many more still remain. And as you guys were just saying, this is an investigation that will be going on for hours into the night as the forensic teams come out, make all the measurements, and piece together exactly what happened here. And just like you, waiting to hear from the sheriff here at 5 o'clock to maybe get some more details about what happened. But that's what's going on Maryland Parkway. It's just a very, very somber place tonight. Not a lot of conversations going even among the police officers who are gathered in groups here and there. But we'll keep watching for people who are released as this campus is cleared, and ask them if they would like to talk with us and share those stories with you when we can.
All right, just a tough night for all of us. And Jim, we thank you for all that you're doing out there. And as we talk about the law enforcement presence and we're waiting for them to give us an update, it's important to remember they're going through their own sense of tragedy as well after losing 2 troopers just on Thursday. In fact, those funerals scheduled for Friday, another one for Monday. And so it really has been a very tough time for Southern Nevada.
And there was a candlelight vigil tonight being organized by the Injured Police Officers Fund, an organization that raises money for the families affected by tragedy. These law enforcement families, they have put off that event tonight in light of what happens today at UNLV.
A lot of changes today. They closed the campus, the campuses, plural, in Southern Nevada for CSN and UNLV, of course, any Institute of Higher Learning here in Southern Nevada. They shut down for the day today, and when they will reopen, we don't know. It could be tomorrow. That's a possibility.
Right.
And the UNLV men's basketball team was supposed to play in Dayton, Ohio tonight. They were in Dayton already, getting ready to go to the arena when they canceled the game out of respect to what happened on the college campus today.
Yeah, CCSD also put out that they canceled all sporting activities as well for the school district. So a lot of people grieving with UNLV tonight, and hearts are open, but hearts are also broken right now as we learn more. And of course, we're standing by hoping to get some more clarification. But as we know, we've all been covering these type of situations before over the years. There's nothing that can make sense of what is ultimately senseless. And so while we're cramming for that information, and we can't wait to find out, like, why would this happen, if they even know that at this point, we do know that that's not going to be enough solace. That's not going to be the type of closure that families who are getting horrific news are learning right now. I mean, I can't help but think back to that student that Tiffany was talking to. He said his brother is his everything. And one of the reasons why he wanted to go to UNLV, his brother is okay, yet he's breaking down because he just thought about what he could have lost.
Yes.
And yet we know there are families who are facing that unfortunate reality tonight.
Let's go back out now to Tiffany Lane, who's there at the Reunification Center, at the Convention Center. And Tiffany, do you have another student there with you, or a family member?
So I actually have Letitia here. So I wanted to share a positive story amongst everything that's sad going on right now. So Letitia has a food truck here. Why don't you share the name of your food truck? And you're actually going around giving out water to impacted families, just providing a resource as they get here, just something you're voluntarily doing.
My food truck is Southern Comfort Foods. I'm normally posted at the Convention Center, and I was across the street, and when I heard that everyone was meeting over here, I was like, what can I do? What can I do? So I decided to just come out, bring some drinks, water, soda, whatever. You know, this is a time when the community needs to come together. We are Vegas strong. We've shown that we're a resilient community. It's been a lot going on this week, and this is just one thing that I can do.
For you, just seeing those families that are finally coming together here, how important is it to provide any type of resource, whether it's the water or whatever it may be, as they're getting here, kind of that point where they feel comfortable and safe again?
No words. No words. It's just you just never know what people are going through, what any little gesture that you can offer, how it can impact them. So I'm just happy to be able to do it. I'm not grieving, I'm not stressed, you know, like so many other people are. So this is something that I can do easily.
And you were talking about just the significance of this is devastating at any time, but this is the holidays when families come even more together. How much of a challenge does that add to and the sadness to everything that's already going on?
It's major. This is a major impact for our community. You know, just the other day we lost 2 officers. Now this today, holidays are right around the corner. I mean, this is a time that our community just really needs to stand together and just show love to one another, that's all.
Were you, when you heard this, where were you when you found out about what happened, and what was your initial reaction? Could you believe it?
I was actually at the West Hall across the street, another part of the Convention Center, and I was like, no, not here. You know, because you see these things happening all over. You know, October 1 was something major for us, but never would I have ever thought that something like this would happen at UNLV. Never.
Do you have a message for the impacted families and students and staff?
Just God bless you all. I'll keep you in my prayers, and this too shall pass.
And how long do you plan on being here tonight?
I'll probably be here roughly for about another hour or so. As the crowd thins out, then I'll leave. But I just want to give out what I have, and once what I have is gone, then I'll leave.
Well, Letitia, thank you so much for being here, for families that need whatever they can get at this point as support. But again, this is just another positive story. We do have other community groups that you have been speaking with tonight that are also coming together. And as Letitia mentioned, this is just showing that we are Vegas strong. But for now, I'm going to toss it back to you.
All right, thank you so much, and thank you to her for doing everything she can to help. And I think that's just another sign that we have so many great people in this community. She stopped what she was doing and said, I want to help, and she's trying to help in any way that she can.
Well, you were bringing it up after 1 October. How did people help? They all went down to donate blood. Do you remember those lines? People waited in hours, in line hours to give blood in our community after 1 October. They just wanted to help in any way they possibly could.
And they also brought food to the police stations, knowing that the police had lots of work as well. And look at this powerful moment. Let's just take this in.
Reunion.
Let's just take this in.
This is a reunion we're seeing from the Reunification Center at the Las Vegas Convention Center. And I think that's the young man that Tiffany was interviewing just a short time ago, and he was saying that his older brother is his everything. Right now, Metro is getting ready for the news conference. Let's take you to Metro headquarters right now and listen in.
Good evening. Thanks for coming. My name is Kevin McMahill, and I'm the sheriff of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. First, I would like to reiterate to all of you that there is no more ongoing threat to our community here in Las Vegas. I also like to tell you that we do know the identity of the suspect in this case, but I will not be releasing his name tonight until after the next of kin notification. As you all know, of course, this is a tragic day for all of us in Southern Nevada. And at approximately 11:45 a.m., LVMPD dispatch received reports of an active shooter at the UNLV campus. UNLV campus police responded to the scene and engaged the suspect immediately right outside of Beam Hall. LVMPD officers also responded simultaneously. I can tell you today, 3 of the victims are confirmed deceased. There is a 4th victim who suffered a gunshot wound and is now currently in Sunrise Hospital, upgraded to stable condition. In addition to that, there were 4 additional people who were transported from the scene to nearby hospitals suffering from panic attacks. 2 of our officers were treated at UMC for minor injuries, which were received while searching the vast rooms and buildings for victims at UNLV. Our hearts go out to the entire UNLV community. No student should have to fear pursuing their dreams on the college campus. What happened today is a heinous, unforgivable crime, but I want you all to know something. It's a crime that we train for each and every day. When there's an active shooter threat, the men and women of the Southern Nevada first responder community, police, fire, and EMS come together to respond quickly and decisively with zero hesitation. Within minutes, both on and off duty responders race to the campus to prevent further loss of life. On a personal note, I'll tell you that after 1 October and all the time and effort and energy that we've put together in training with the men and women of law enforcement, the fire service, and EMS, watching how seamlessly they work together today made me very, very proud to be their sheriff. Importantly, there was a gathering just outside of the building where the students were playing games and eating food. There were tables set up for them to build Legos. And if it hadn't been for the heroic actions of one of those police officers who responded, there could have been countless additional lives taken. Armed confrontation of the suspect by law enforcement stopped the suspect's further actions. I'm proud of the courage of these officers and the UNLV campus police and how they demonstrated that today. And with that, I'm going to introduce the governor of the great state of Nevada, Joe Lombardo. Governor.
Thank you. Kevin, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I think it's important for people to realize the partnership that is formed as a result of my career at LVMPD and with Kevin, the sheriff himself, and the confidence that I was assured of when I got notified today. I had no doubt that the response would be appropriate, it would be swift, it would be quick, to the satisfaction of all the naysayers that we normally experience during critical incidents. And today, LVMPD did a fantastic job, along with the university PD did a fantastic job. And after the after action is settled here and our concern for the victims are bolstered and satisfied, I will be absolutely proud of the response of the first responders. I'll be absolutely proud of the community of UNLV, and I'll be absolutely proud of the community of Las Vegas and the state of Nevada. I had some formal comments to be said, but the important piece is I'm here to show the solidarity between the community and the law enforcement community and ensure on behalf of the state of Nevada, we are here to help, provide resources to the benefit of the victims and to express my concern for the victims and favorable thoughts to the families and to ensure that we move forward as a society and as a community, and to assure the community we are doing everything within our ability to address these situations appropriately and with the knowledge that we have received on a continual basis. So, Kevin, thank you. I appreciate that, and I think it's appropriate that the chief of UPD comes up and says a few words in the positive response of his police department. So, Chief Alex Garcia, please.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Adam Garcia. I'm the University Police Chief. First of all, let me begin by telling you all how heartbroken we are on our campus for what happened today. On behalf of the Chancellor, the Board of Regents, and President Whitfield, I am passing along our profound sense of loss for what occurred in the loss of life that took place. As the sheriff said, our officers collectively, UPD as well as Metro, responded to call for shots fired approximately 11:45. Two of our detectives responded to the scene and immediately engaged the suspect in a shootout. The suspect was struck and is deceased at this time. The campus was almost immediately closed, and out of an abundance of caution, all Nevada System of Higher Education institutions in Southern Nevada were as well closed. UNLV will remain closed for the remainder of today, tomorrow, and Friday, and additional determinations will be made as to whether or not the university will reopen next week, which will be finals week. So with that, I will turn it over to Commissioner Gibson.
Thank you, Chief. I'm Jim Gibson, the chairman of the Clark County Commission, and I'm here to express the shock that we all felt as a community, but at the same time, the enormous relief that we feel as a result of the great work of the first responders. We want everyone to know that anyone who has been affected will have the resources available to them to ensure that they have an opportunity and a pathway to work through whatever the effects have been. My colleagues on the County Commission, indeed all of us in Clark County, express our support to the university and the folks who've been affected over there. We know that this will not know the entirety of the effect of all of this for some time. But the one thing that is certain, which was spoken, I think, a few minutes ago, is that without the incredibly well-trained and effective response that was provided, a whole lot worse situation could have happened. For those who suffer loss under the circumstances, the worst has happened for them. And as a community, we need to make sure that we're mindful of them. We need to keep them in our prayers, and we need to respond in every other way that we possibly can in order to meet the needs that are so great at this time, this kind of a thing, and at this time in our lives here in this county. And now I would turn it over, the microphone over to Chief Steinbeck, who will talk just a little bit about what some of the resources are that are available. Chief?
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it. Adam, great job. Thank you very much, and great job by LVMPD and certainly all the participating agencies there. Yes, immediately we started to go ahead and we had people that aren't there on scene start to build up the resources for the recovery. Recovery starts actually before the incident even begins and certainly as the incident unfolds. So we do have over at the Las Vegas Convention Center in the North Hall, we have opened up a family assistance center there. It's similar to the one that we opened up after 1 October, obviously smaller in scale, but ready to provide many of the same services, which include behavioral health services. UNLV has student services there. We have religious leaders there. Legal Aid of Nevada is there. Any resources that we might find necessary, whether they're immediate or in the long term, as the Commissioner said. Also at the Vegas Justice and Resiliency Center, that'll be open. That is the center that was opened up following 1 October, a long-term resiliency center. That is also ready to assist those in need and will take over the long-term recovery operation following the immediate reunification and the services that are provided at the Family Assistance Center. You can access those services in person or online. And the online is at the FAC, which stands for Family Assistance Center, FAC of southernnevada.org. You can also call 211, in which you'll be directed over to the call center, or the direct call to the call center is 702-455-AIDE, AID, or 702-455-2433. And so those numbers are available for all those services. Again, as was spoken before, hearts go out to the families. Certainly wasn't lost. They're on the scene after it was de-escalating. That college means a lot to us, right? And that's where I went. That's where my wife went. That's where my children went. So hearts go out to UNLV and certainly any of the families of the people that have been affected by this. Thank you.
I'm Carolyn Goodman, Mayor of the City of Las Vegas. And after all these years and the tragedies that have happened around our country, but right here, it's something for the families that we've lost, who've had this tragedy, bespeak everything that is not good about our country, what's wrong, and how we have to teach our children to handle stress and be able to work through anger and hate in other ways. I don't have the particulars of who we have lost. I think this is all with the sheriff. I know our first responders were incredible, all facets of law enforcement immediately pulling together, and I'm so grateful and proud of them. I do have someone very close to me who was out on the campus at the time, and want to commend the security out at UNLV for their instantaneous reaction and calming those who could be calmed and making the lockdown bearable with all that fear. The fear that permeated every one of those children, every one of those professors. It's a very difficult time, and it's time for us, as the adults, enough. It is enough. And it is people filled with anger or not understanding how to handle disappointment in their lives that they become even more hateful and full of anger and take lives of others. So my condolences on behalf of the entire city and the community to those we've lost, those families that are so distraught and lost today and in the future. And Sheriff, I must commend you. And Sheriff, former Sheriff Lombardo, you did set this up. And Sheriff, thank you. What a tragic time for us. But it's a time to make it a positive and do something. We must fix this now. And allowing me to speak. Thank you, Sheriff. And congratulations.
As soon as I listened to the comments of the other speakers, it took me back to when the sheriff or the undersheriff and I were over at the scene and watching as we had to go through floor by floor, room by room, building by building. And I've seen some of the commentary about how long this has taken. But just like in 1 October, numerous other calls were coming in about different shootings that were occurring. We're having to breach every single door. We're finding groups of students that were huddled. It took us a long time to evacuate and then recheck. We will be conducting this investigation into the wee hours of the morning, there is no doubt. I know you have an insatiable appetite like I do to find out why, to understand motivation, and we will provide that to you at the appropriate time. But with that being said, I'd just like to end on the fact that we watched a lot of fear across the faces of those young men and women at UNLV today. And it's unfortunate that they had to live through that. But again, I'm proud of that first responder community for getting over there and doing that. So with that, I'll take a couple of questions.
Aww.
So you have to tell me who's talking. I can't see. Hi, Dana. Not yet, Dana. I just want to reserve until I have a little bit better information on exactly what was used. We haven't moved the body yet. I don't have any details on the weapon yet, but we will provide that to you.
What's the affiliation of the victims to UNLV? Were there students, professors, staff?
I'm not prepared to release that information yet either. Like I said, I know you guys are hungry for that, but we haven't been able to run each and every one of those leads down, and I don't want to provide you misinformation at that. Ricardo, last one.
Did the shooting originate outside, or did it begin outside, and about how long were shots fired?
It originated on the 4th floor of that beam building, went to multiple floors, and the suspect was neutralized on the outside by the UNLV Police Department. So we'll be providing you the next news conference information as we get it. Thanks for coming.
All right, so we were just briefed by Sheriff Mick Mayhill there, as well as UNLV Police Chief, and we've learned a lot of things. They still haven't said who the suspect is, but they do know the person's identity. They're waiting on notification of next of kin. What was really interesting, we kept wondering up until we heard from one of the witnesses at the scene who said that he saw 4 gunshot wounds, according to him, to the back of the suspect. We still haven't had that confirmed, but what we do know is that University Police actually engaged that suspect, they say, immediately,